Lots of updates, lots of things going on. There's a lot going on right now, a lot of people doing a lot of research, and I really appreciate that. I just wanted to thank everybody who's been honest, who's been truthful, who's really tried to help us get to the truth, regardless of your view, regardless of if you think David Crowley is guilty, you think he's not guilty, or if you're like me, you're not sure. I think all of the honest people, all of the good people, all of the good people inside of the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group, and everybody outside, everybody who's commenting, everybody who's trying to contribute to figure out what really happened here. Not people that are trying to mislead or distract. You're always going to have that. You're always going to have those. But we're definitely focused here. We're definitely focused on figuring out what happened, getting some data to back that up, because that's a big part of it, is to actually have data to back up what you're saying. So thank everybody again. Appreciate it. Keep up the great work.
Hello, my name is Dan Hennon. I'm joined along tonight with Greg Fernandez Jr. and a special guest. Today is April 5th, 2018, and we'll be discussing the Crowley case from Minnesota with a special guest. We've got someone on the line who is joining us tonight named Russell, and his background is very, I think, I'm enthused about his background because we haven't heard someone with this background on this case. Russell's got a BS in counseling psychology, an MA in human sciences with a concentration in psychology, a postgraduate diploma in forensic science, and completed a 2-year internship with the Criminal Investigative Division at a sheriff's department. He is also an affiliate member of the Academy of Behavioral Profilers. Welcome, Russell.
Thank you.
And Greg, welcome to you here. I have not yet said hello to you. I jumped right in with Russell.
That's okay.
I guess
that's fine.
I'm a little excited. But what we'll do here is we've got some time to chat. This is going to be published, and then we'll push this out on the Facebook pages and whatnot for people to listen to. But Russell, how did you get? What is your? I know I mentioned your background there, but if you can go on a little bit of what your background and what has brought you to this case here.
What brought me into this area? I started out in theology, so and that only lasted a semester, and so then I switched over to marriage and family counseling. That didn't last very long either, and was thinking about gerontology and stuff like that. And then faced with borderline personality lady while I was doing inpatient work. All these things led me not to go clinical psychology. And I just discovered I don't care, put it point blank, I don't care about your mommy and daddy issues. That it wasn't for me. All I wanted to do was, put it very bluntly, hang them high through a legal process. If you want therapeutic help, and you're denied it, I'll be the first person that will advocate for you to get it, because I do believe every person, whether they're guilty or not guilty, has the right to good, competent therapy and a good, competent therapist. I just learned early on that was not for me. I could not give that to someone. So, and then also through my life, seeing how women and children were treated, I just thought that, a lot of people need a voice, and you need to speak for that voice, especially for those who can't or will not speak for themselves. So that's what prompted me to get into this area. Okay. I don't know. I work better if you ask me questions.
Oh, very good, very good. What we'd like to start off with is, and we'd rather not call this an interview, but more or less just a talk or a discussion, because someone with your caliber of background would really be beneficial for this case. We've been going around and round with this case. I created the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook page. Greg Fernandez here is one of the admins, and we like to start off by letting people know that we're not here to, solve the case and put someone behind bars, but we're here to mainly just trying to look for the evidence of that David really did do this. So far, we haven't seen that. It appears to be a cover-up of some sort. We're not sure who. We're not sure who to point the fingers at. We're really not even interested in pointing the fingers at anyone, but nothing we see sheds any light on the fact that David Crowley did this to his wife Kamel, and his daughter Rani. So we're looking to get some kind of background of that from your background. Have you gone through the crime scene photos and read through the police reports at all, Russell?
Yes, I have. I was given access to quite an extensive amount of paperwork that dealt with this case, and it only took me reading 3 pages before I stopped, because I was thinking there's no sense in going any further because already I know there's something wrong. So it only took me 3 pages out of all the extensive material I had, and that was even before I got to the pictures.
Really? So what document was this? Was this the police report?
It was the autopsy reports and the police reports. I don't know how you guys, to preface this, I'm not a politically correct person, so if I say anything that is whatever, please feel free to, edit or whatever, but I don't do politically correctness, so I'm not going to tiptoe around this.
That's very good. We like that. We encourage that. That's good.
And so, from the very first 3 pages, to say that the police case or the police work was inept would be a huge understatement. There are so many things that were not done right. There were the timeline is totally and completely there's something wrong with the timeline. I believe that if you had good forensic investigators, if you had good forensic entomologist, a forensic anthropologist, a good forensic pathologist, not a coroner and not a regular medical examiner. And I think if you had people who really cared, if it had ever gone to court, it wouldn't. The way it is now, it would not go to court because it's so inconsistent. It's just unbelievable, especially with the timeline. I can't believe that they got away with as much as, and I'm not saying who they are, but it's got away with as much as it has. And I've never ever heard of somebody calling for a medical examiner and the medical examiner shows up 5+ hours later. That's no. I'm sorry, that's just no. That's all I can say, that's no. So that was the first thing that caught my eye with that there was something really, really wrong. And when you're reading over the police reports and you're trying to imagine what each of these individual characters or participants or actors in the story are doing, it does not make sense. You have somebody from next door calling, and and then you get the idea that it's the police who are taking the word of the person who's calling from next door. I've never heard of that, ever. There are things where people are saying that they looked through the window and they didn't see anything, but yet they see a dog. But yet when you look at the pictures, it's an indicator, a very clear indicator that there was never anything that ever looked out that window. So I'm looking at that, and it just from the get-go, it just didn't smell right. That's all. There was something's wrong.
Now, Russell, just if I can go back a second, I don't have a background in this, and neither does Greg's, and maybe you would agree, Greg, but what would be the time for that medical examiner to show up? You stated 5 hours is
that's and then it's not only for the time that they showed up, but it's the amount of time that they actually stayed.
Okay.
That's wrong, because now I'm not saying medical examiners have to show up on every case. They will send their deputy medical examiner, or they can send their investigators out if the crime scene is not that questionable, or if the crime scene is not to such an extent as this one was evidencing. But with this type of crime scene, I think any forensic pathologist or any type of medical examiner that's worth half their weight would not take 5 hours. You go out, and the most crucial thing, time is your enemy. Okay, so from the time that this first word gets out, from the time the very first responding officer sees this type of crime scene, there's a couple things that's very, very crucial. One, you must always secure the crime scene to make sure that no one else is in jeopardy, no one else's life. The criminals, the perpetrators are not still at the scene. That's paramount. Nothing else matters. But once that's been established, then the crucial thing is a time factor. You're running against a time clock here. And the longer you allow something to sit out, the more chance that you have of the degradation of the evidence, the trace evidence, and everything else start to disappear or get corrupted, you know. So you're running on a timeline. It's very crucial you get there as fast as you can, and it's extremely crucial that everything is left in situ. And what I mean by situ is as it was when the first, as possible, when the very first responder showed up. Everything has to be in situ. Then then the medical examiner has to get there right away, because this is a multiple case where you have multiple decedents, and you don't know how they died at the point. And I would like to stress that emphatically. No one other than the medical examiner, and even after the medical examiner has investigated, looked at the bodies, done everything they can tell you what happened. No one. And anyone who sits there and says they walk in, and they say, oh yeah, we got a dead child here that's 5 years old, or oh, we have this, oh, this is suicide, they need to shut up, because they're part of the problem, not part of the solution. Okay, they do not have the training, they do not have the education, they do not have the experience to make such a statement. And I really would like to emphasize this, only the medical examiner, no one else, can tell you when to move the bodies, can tell the police when they can start investigating, can say anything about what may or may not have happened at that scene. And that's only after all the evidence is in, the autopsies have been done, all the tests have come back, you know, trace evidence, toxicology, histology, entomology. I mean, all those tests that maybe need done, until they all come back, because that all is added into a forensic examiner's report, and only after that report is done can the medical examiner state this is what the evidence is pointing to. So if that was done, and when I'm reading this report, all that was done way before the medical examiner even showed up. And then for them to sit there, the medical examiner apparently was called sometime around 5, somewhere between 3 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember the exact time. But then he doesn't show up until 11-something at night. So, the thing he leaves at 4 o'clock in the morning. I mean, I don't know about you. I've never heard of that. So, if there's any questions right now before I continue, that would be great.
Yeah, go ahead, Greg. Do you have anything?
No, please keep on going.
Okay, so, and then the fact of the amount of time that was taken by the medical examiner once they did show up is a joke. It's a serious joke. With this type of crime scene, and the amount of decedents involved and all the different things that are in play, there's absolutely no way in my professional mind I can ever see any examiner coming there at the time they did and then around 4 o'clock in the morning leaving. That is unheard of. That's just unheard of. I can't say anything other than that because I will not ever get into speculation. I will not get into conjecture. So it's in my mind, it's no. Okay?
Now, Russell, I've got a question, Russell. With 3 decedents in a case like this, how long would it take for the case or the scene to be cleared and the professional cleaners to come in?
I would dare to say at a minimum of a day. The bare minimum of a day or 24 hours. I really cannot see it that the whole scene is secured. I'm talking about the scene. The police are never in control until I wish people would stop watching TV. The police are not in control. The only time they are in control is when the first responder gets there. He secures the house, makes sure that the perpetrators are not there. No one else's life is in danger. EMTs are not needed. Paramedics, they're not needed. I mean, but once that's been established, the crime scene, the entire crime scene is the sole authority of the medical examiner, not the police. The police have no jurisdiction. They have no say-so at all.
Can they take photos?
They can't do squat. And that's reality. The only people that can come in and take pictures is not the police. It would be the investigators from the medical examiner's office, your CSI type people. And only when the medical examiner tells them to. Okay, in doing a crime scene, this is the other thing I found that was totally done with ineptness, is that when you have a crime scene like this, unbeknownst to everyone else, the body, or bodies in this case, is the very last thing you look at. You don't approach them. Everything's done in a grid fashion. You do your investigation in a grid fashion, and in this case, you would do it in a circular grid fashion. Okay, you start from the furthest point from where the bodies are at, and you do your investigation, and you work your investigation in a circular grid that will lead to the bodies. So you start from the outside, the police, the investigators, they look for everything on the outside, and you limit. It is very crucial that, and this is something I noticed, it's very crucial that you limit the amount of access to the crime scene. And that means if you're a policeman and you don't need to be there, you're not supposed to be there. You can be sitting outside or standing outside, secure the perimeter or whatever, but you do not have no one go into that crime scene. No one. You limit the amount of people that go into that crime scene, And if you have to have someone go into the crime scene, you always have to have a person that stands outside that takes the names of everyone who goes in and goes out, and everyone who goes in, they follow a very certain pathway that's already been pre-established. You do not walk around willy-nilly. It's a predetermined pathway that each one egresses and regresses. You go in, you go out the same way, and you limit the amount of things. And this is why the time frame is ridiculous, because it takes hours to even, in most cases that were even more simpler than this, it could take hours before you ever get to the body. So you look outside, you go inside, and you're taking pictures, and all that kind of good stuff. You're doing that, and finally, then, and during this time, the only person that is allowed to even approach the decedents before any of this is finished is the medical examiner, because they control the scene. Not the police, not the CSI techs, none of those people. The medical examiner has absolute authority. They go in, and they're the only ones that can walk up to that scene. They're not followed by policemen. They're not followed unless the medical examiner requests his techs to come in and do whatever because the medical examiner has absolute authority. Whatever the medical examiner wants, then those people come in. But only when the medical examiner is done with the body will he release the crime scene to the police. That's when the police come in, and then they can start doing their fingerprinting and their picture taking, because all the pictures of the scenes should have already been taken by the crime scene techs upon the orders of the medical examiner. And I didn't see that. I saw this thing was, according to what I read, it was rushed. And that's a huge understatement. It was rushed. And so if there's any other questions, because it's not something like TV. It's not a matter you go in and all of a sudden the case is solved, and 30 minutes later the crime scene's closed, and the medical examiner has the body in the autopsy room and he's doing the autopsy already. That's not reality. That's TV. It takes hours. And from the time the medical examiner was supposedly have gotten there, only 4 hours? I mean, give me a break. No.
Now, also from a law enforcement perspective, the first press releases we saw was the same night was a press release saying bodies were found in a home and it's being investigated. The next night, I think it was this, Greg, suspicious activities. Suspicious. 3 bodies are found. And the second day, it was murder, double murder, suicide, most likely killed himself, and the public is not at threat, in danger of a killer on the loose. And then the very next day, it was yes, a double murder followed by a suicide, and tests will be done, and months will be taken, months before the forensics will be done. But really, that's the case. It was all basically wrapped up in a nice bow, 48 hours after the fact. Is that normal?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Like that?
The response are the news in this person's or this professional person's way of thinking was unprofessional and should never have happened. You cannot, within that short period of time, say, oh, we have a suicide, because that's irresponsible, because there is no way in the world, none, that you can walk in to a crime scene such as this and say, oh, it's a homicide suicide. No, that's a matter of, that shows me that there's a possible or plausible indication that it's being rushed or covered up. You can't. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. Point blank. You cannot. If you were any person that had any credibility, or you were worthy or mustard or whatever, I'm sorry, you should not. The medical examiner spoke up right away and went to the police and said, excuse me, you cannot put that information out there.
Now, a lot of people watching this case also think that perhaps it was small town cops. Not familiar with this. This Apple Valley is the city of population's over 50,000. It's a good sized city. It's a good, it's fairly good size with very good, from what I've heard, good detectives, good law enforcement, and very bright people on that staff. Now, later that year, when the investigation was concluded, the detective staff won the Law Enforcement of the Year award for the Apple Valley Police Department, and two people handling the case were the Officers of the Year for all their work they've done on this case. Would that be something that's plausible for the efforts like this to be rewarded?
No.
Or what's your thought?
It should have never happened. Why should someone get congratulated over a job that was completely inept? Procedure that was not followed. And the fact that you may be a good, this is not Redondo Beach, this is not La Jolla, this is not the Hamptons. It shouldn't happen this way anywhere. And to say that, oh, well, maybe they're small town, because I know about Apple Valley, I've lived in Minnesota, I've worked in Minneapolis before, so, I know about Minnesota. And I know where Apple Valley is, and I can see it as clear as day in my head, and there's no excuse for this. I'm sorry, to sit there and say, well, they didn't know, or maybe they didn't do this, or maybe they didn't do that. I'm going to be very blunt and say BS. And no. When it comes to forensics, for me, it's either you know what you're doing or you don't.
Yeah,
there is no in between.
And after looking at some of this, I've made this comment before, and I've often gotten chastised for it. I said there's really only two conclusions. The law enforcement was compromised here to do something that they didn't want, or they were just inept at the entire process. That's really all that I can see coming forth from the things that I've read and the pictures that I've seen in the police reports. I don't believe that inept, but this was horrendously done. It only leads one to conclude that someone was compromised along the way here by higher-ups somewhere.
I don't know about higher-up, but I will have to say that you're not alone in that opinion. I mean, a blind man could look at this case and know that it was not done according to procedure. It was not. And the fact that, and I have to touch on a very, very serious point here that I think everyone is overlooking. Like I have stated before, everyone always wants to ask why. Why? And I learned this the hard way and studying and coming up and through what my experience and the things that I was involved in. The one question everybody wants to ask is why. That's the wrong question. The why is the given. The why, it's the how. The how is what's important. The how is going to tell you. The how will bring justification to the why. It's like people say, well, how can there be all these bad people in the world, blah, 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 blah. Well, why are you asking me that when you already know the answer? The why is because sin. If you believe in that sort of thing, it's sin. So the why is already answered. Now, if you really want to get down to brass tacks, then you have to look at the how. what happened with these people's lives? What happened? What were all the different myriad of variables that had to come together to bring this act into fruition? You find that out, then you will discover the why was apparent all along. So the why is not the question to be asking. It's the how. And one of the things in this case that points to me, and this is why it's so important to study the behavioral aspects of a case, not only the crime scene itself, but to delve deep into the victim's background, to study in every little nth degree of the person, leave no privacy at all. I mean, study everything, strip them bare to the bones about who they were, what they believed, where they went, why they went. I mean, what they ate, why did they eat it, when and where. I mean, this is what you have to do. You do a behavioral analysis, behavioral assessment of the victims. And if you can figure out the how, the why becomes very self-apparent. And with this case, if you're studying this case, and automatically, if you don't know any better, and you go along with the murder-suicide, which I think is the biggest joke in the world, the one thing that points to it not being that is you have to study from what I've seen, and according, not my opinion, but from the evidence, and if you study the people's background, it was staged. That's the only thing, the evidence, not my opinion, I want to stress that, but the evidence points to it being staged. And what I mean by that is I'm a person that I like to study about people's religious beliefs. I don't believe in half of it, but I really believe that if you can, since long as I love behavior, that's what I'm trained in. You must never throw away or discount anything. Just because someone believes something you don't doesn't mean you're right, they're wrong, blah, 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 blah. You have to take it all in. You have to be you have to be dispassionate about everything. And so studying this, I have been to the Middle East, and I spent some time in the Middle East, extensive time in the Middle East, and I know about Islam, I know about the Quran, I collect Bibles, and I collect holy books, what people consider holy books. And if you know anything about Islam, anything at all, you will know that this crime scene was staged. First of all, and I'm not talking about militant Islam. No, I'm talking about any moderate Muslim. Any moderate Muslim. If they ever found out, if this ever became public, the person or persons who did whatever they did would be on a death list. And that's reality. That's not trying to scare someone. That's because you heard of the incident in Europe where someone made a caricature of Muhammad. And look at the outrage that happened after that, as a result of that. Now come and take that and place that same, the how, not the why, but the how. You place that into the arena of this case, and there is only one question, there's only one outcome you can come to. It was staged. First of all, no one's going to take an infidel's blood and write Allah Akbar on the wall. No one. It's a criminal offense. I mean, I want to cry because the act of this is so heinous. And I want to emphasize, I do not believe in Islam. This is not my thing, but I have to respect their belief, and I cannot discount it in anything. So first of all, no one will do that. The other thing is, no one, I really got to emphasize this, would never rip pages out of a Quran. and throw them around the bodies of infidels. I'm sorry, that's a criminal, that's a death offense. That is a death offense. So that's not going to happen. And the worst, the most heinous thing that whoever this person or persons did was to take an infidel's dead hand or arm and lay it on top of a Quran. That is worse than the caricature that someone drew of Muhammad. And look at the response that created. You have somebody take the dead hand of an infidel and lay it on top. First, you put the Quran on the ground, which is, oh my, you have, the average public have no idea how heinous this really is. And then you put the Quran on the ground, and then you lay his hand on top of it. No, I want to sit here and cry right now. And I don't believe in Islam. I have a Quran. I have a very nice Quran, inlaid in gold. I treat it just as well as any other religious book. But that is because out of respect, you never do that. And the moment you saw that, you don't need to look any further. If you know the how, you do not need to go any further in this investigation to know it was staged. And if you, like I say, if you know anything about Islamic faith, if you know anything about the Quran, the average person has no clue how important that book is. And no proper, in their mind, Islamic person would ever do that. And to defile that book with an infidel's dead hand is unconscionable. And that's all I got to say about that. It's just, it's heinous.
Yeah, I agree, Russell. That was held privately for, I think, 2 months before, I think it was March of 2015, before law enforcement even exposed that information to the families. And so that, and then it became public in January of 2016. And that was when that issue, when I call all that stuff the Muslim-related stuff that happened in the house of staging, for me personally, once I saw that, when that came to light, all my thoughts of it being staged went through the roof, because I knew for sure it was a poorly staged scene. It was a slam dunk once I saw that. I think the killers had a much better chance letting all that go, and it would have been more believable. But once they introduced all of these things, it was then to the point of overstaging the scene. And this was just a horrible, this was done by imbeciles. I mean, this was
those imbeciles, whether they know it or not, if the Muslim community ever found out who they were, I don't think their lives would be worth anything. Because that right there should tell you something very, very, very bad is wrong with this case.
Yep,
and with Muslims, when they make a statement, they don't take an infidel's blood and write it on the wall. This is Hollywood. You will look at this crime scene and it reeks of Hollywood. It's not done, ever, not even once, in any realm.
Now, on the documentary that came out, done by Eric Nelson, one of the final questions by the father of David Crowley, Dan Sr., says, you know, all we're left with is the why. I went through and read everything on the the hard drives and the journals, and I just can't come up with the why. And even Eric Nelson, while filming the documentary, says hopefully this will give people the answer to, potentially the why, because that's the one thing we're left with. Is that part of the distraction here, to get people looking at the why, do you think?
I want to re-stress, as long as you keep your attention on the why, you'll never move forward in this case.
Okay.
As long as we keep our attention on the why, you're not going to go nowhere. The why is already given. What if you want to find a possible resolution to this, if there is one, if you just want to bring some solace to the victims of the families that are still living, then you have to look at the how, because the answer to this is in the how. The answer to this, you look at the crime scene photos, you look at the reports, the how is there. There is your answer. It is telling you everything you want to know. But the reason that is possibly that we're not getting nowhere is because everyone wants to go with the traditional notion of the why. And that is to fulfill some psychological need. You know, you have people who are suffering great loss, and that's all they can see. And then other people want to do everything in their power to try to alleviate that. Well, I think we do a huge injustice to those people who are left behind by doing that. We look at the how. The people's signature. A signature is something that a criminal leaves behind that's very indicative of them and only them. Now, their signature could be something they left behind. It could be a forged note. It could be carvings on the body, the writing on the wall, whatever. Everything you need to know about who did this, not the why, but who, the how, is there. Everything. It's staring at us in the face. And the average person will never, ever, ever be able to outdo. They can't outdo this. They will sign their name to it. They will. There is no ands, ifs, or buts. They will.
Now, Russell, I know the current terminology, I think it's called a forensic behaviorist, but in the past, was that known as a person who put together like an FBI profile, a profile of the killers? Is that the same?
At the very beginning, we're talking in the early 1970s, it was known as profiling. But since then, that has been relegated to the land of TV. Okay, it is now called behavioral analysis.
Okay.
And behavioral analysis is more accurate, it's a better descriptor, because behavioral analysis shows not only are you profiling the individual, but you're also studying the behavioral aspect of an environment within a crime scene. So that, and when they figured this one out, they also figured out that if by studying a crime scene, if by studying the families, by their movements, by what their likes were, by what they did, where they went, why they went, what was the religious beliefs, why they held those beliefs, who contacted them, who wrote them, who did they write, you know, all these things. By doing this type of analysis, they found that they could come more and more closer to the perpetrator, because the perpetrator is there. He's there. I mean, his signature is there. I mean, everything that you want to know about the perpetrator is there.
So what do you see there?
And so that's why it's called what? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. What?
Oh, I was just saying, so if it's all there, what do you see? Do you see anything there that might help us kind of figure out who the perpetrator was?
Okay. What my suggestion would be is stop looking for the why. Okay. Stop looking for the why. Look at every aspect of this case. Pay attention to the people themselves, the victims. If you study the victims, you study their you study their habits, you study what their mail was, you study what they thought, what they believed, how well their relationships were with their family, their finances. I mean, everything. You study that, and you can get to intimately know the victims. You will see, there's a good chance that you will see the perpetrator. Because the perpetrator, no matter how good they are, they cannot hide that.
Now,
one thing is clear to me is this case, it seems to be made to look like something it's not. And that throws people off.
correct. That's done in the form of a redirection to get people chasing their own tails, looking at other things. Now, in a case like this where there's an open investigation, for instance, on a case where they are actually law enforcement's looking for the killer, they're looking to try to find the bad guy. They'll bring in a person with, like, for instance, your background, and you'll put together an analysis of what type of person would be the perpetrator. Now, a case like this is closed. There's no need for someone like you. Would, for instance, the families contact a person with your background to say, we'd like to hire you to put together a profile of what we think, of what you think, who really did this, because we don't believe the official narrative? Do you ever get, is that common in your industry?
Yes. If I have to stress this, okay? And I don't mean to step on no one's toes, but yes, I am going to step on someone's toes, okay? If the law enforcement is truly interested in coming to understand, I'm not mentioning the truth because we're not here to find the truth. If the first of all, if the law enforcement agency and the medical examiner's office truly want to understand how to interpret the evidence in a very correct light, then yes, that would be a good thing to do. The one thing I don't believe is I don't believe in pseudoscience. I don't believe in calling in your crystal ball people. Okay, that's a joke. Pseudoscience has no place in a forensic environment. And so, but if you do have someone, and if you do, and it is not something that is uncommon, and if you do, you have to make sure that the person you have, one, has a training in the area by which you want investigated. It would be like if I was investigating some skeletons, and let's say I found a skeletonized remains, and I want them investigated, I would not bring in an anthropologist. No, I don't care if they had a doctorate degree. I would not. Now, I would bring a forensic anthropologist in. So you have to pick the right people who are going to investigate what you want, and they have to be trained in that area you want them to investigate. Because you've got a lot of good people out there. I believe there's enough evidence present already to warrant doubt. That I believe.
What would it take to get a case like this reopened, if at all possible, Russell?
Okay, this is where you're going to have a hard time. Okay, if there's no interest to begin with, the likelihood of it ever coming to fruition is very little, very slim. You have someone, either the medical examiner's office, the police, whoever, they're going to have to take an interest. If they have no interest, it's not more than likely, if probably will not happen.
Now, how about the families, David and Kamel's
Now,
parents? If they were to try to get this reopened, they are, by the way, if you're familiar with it or not, have both families have bought into the official narrative. So I don't see those stepping up to push for a reinvestigation. But could they explore the option with a person like with your background to at least get some information, or could they get any further evidence if the case is already closed like this?
if they so chose, they're the ones that are going to have to choose. No matter what you do, there has to be interest. Whether it's from familial, whether it's from law enforcement, whether it's from the medical examiner's office, whether it's from the DA's office, whether it's from anybody, whether it's the Joe Blow that stands on the street and he's a transient. You have to have interest. If that interest does not exist, then it's more than likely not going to happen. But if the interest did exist, law enforcement cannot tell the family, they cannot hire someone who is a professional, who's trained in this area, who's in there both academically and has a legal purview. They can't. They can't. That's all there's to it. And if the case has already been adjudicated, then it becomes even harder. And if the law enforcement or the medical examiner puts in a lot of pressure for you to stop or for the family to stop, then someone needs to take a step back and ask, this is the only one time you need to ask why are they doing that? Correct. Because it would be an indication that they did not want to come to find out what the real evidence is stating.
Now we've got a large group on our Facebook group called Justice for David Crowley and Family and it's nearly 2,000 members in this group. Even though we have no connection to the case, the members of the group, and we're not even family, could we gather up and do a fundraising campaign and hire a person like you to get a profile or an analysis of who more than likely was behind this?
If you ask the family, can we do this for you? Because in the end, when everything's said and done, if the family didn't want it, then law enforcement's going to say, I'm sorry, whatever you come up with, it don't mean nothing. That is the sad reality of the situation. You can sit there and spend all your time doing all the research, doing all the work, and if the family does not agree, they do not want to go forward, then any DA, any medical examiner, any law enforcement is going to go along with that because they're not going to put their necks out there.
But does that mean if they try to stand in our way, or does that mean that we would only have to go through the family?
If the family says no, then there's nothing you can do. You can go and do all the investigative stuff you want. Now, if you find criminal negligence, if you find evidence of criminal negligence, then you are responsible to, and you are liable for that evidence, and you hand that evidence in. Now, you cannot act on that evidence. You can get yourself into a lot of trouble. But if you find evidence that something really wasn't quite right and is backed up not by hearsay, not by the truth, but by evidence, then, and if the family doesn't want to listen, if the law enforcement doesn't want to listen, then you hand it in to the state's attorney or the attorney. If he doesn't want to listen, the only thing you can do is bring the evidence and you put it into the purview of the public.
Okay, now have you ever dealt with any case like that where this happened or where this type of thing was actually brought up?
No.
Have you ever
I
heard
do.
of anything like
Yes.
this?
But this will happen. This is where you really, really have to pay attention. You have to dot all your I's. You got to cross all your T's. And if you have any armchair lawyers or space cowboys in your group or whatever, you want to leave them out. Because it will go nowhere. Because what they're looking at, and I have discussed this with other people, whenever you're dealing with a case, the evidence can never be attacked, not directly. The evidence is what it is. It's not biased. It doesn't believe in the truth. It has no self-serving agenda. It's not for one person or another. It is what it is. And that's what scares people about the evidence. So what they will do, instead of attacking the evidence, they will attack the credibility of the person giving that evidence or the science by which this person found that evidence. That's what they will do. So in this, it's great that a lot, and I don't want to shy away from anybody helping, but when it comes down to the actual real thing and giving this real evidence, giving what you find to the proper authorities, you want to make sure that the person, the man, the woman, or whoever, they're top shelf. Because if you do anything else, they're not going to attack your evidence. They're going to attack the credibility of the person who is giving that evidence. And if the person whose credibility can be attacked, or the science by which that evidence was acquired is attacked, regardless of the evidence is true, whether it's right, whether it's whatever, it will be thrown out. It will be discarded.
Is there anything that the cops did wrong that might help us get them to reopen this case, like the bullet hole that they didn't find for 1 month?
I think the only way that maybe you can do that, because it will not be, and I hate to sound liberal when it comes to this, but it will not be in the best interest of your group to start alienating the police. But you do not step on around eggshells at the same time. So what you do is you get somebody in higher authority to get them to do what they should have normally done to begin with. So you take that information, you take your evidence, you cross all your T's, you dot all your I's, and you give it to a state's attorney.
State's attorney, okay.
And I'm telling you, a state's attorney, and if he finds any credibility in the evidence that you, and remember, not the truth and not your opinion, but the evidence in which you come up with, if he finds any credibility, he or she is the person that has the power to tell the police, guess what you're going to do, whether you like it or not.
You're going to reopen the case.
Yeah, and he or she has the power to do that. And there is no law enforcement agency in the state of Minnesota that's going to tell the state's attorney general no.
So we need a smoking gun.
Yes. And once there's enough circumstantial evidence. Now please hear that correctly. There is enough circumstantial evidence to warrant doubt. That's clear. But a state's attorney general is going to need more than that. But if you can get that, whatever you want to call it, smoking gun thing, he or she has the power, the ultimate power, to sit there and demand the police to reopen it.
So
the police
if
will
the
not say no.
Okay. So if the cops can't match the bullet that they say David killed himself with, the bullet that they didn't find for 1 month, would something like that warrant?
If
Would that
you
fall into this?
if you put that together with the fact of where the body positions were laid, the fact that and you put a lot, see, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence. And I think that if you put all that circumstantial evidence together, I think you have enough. Because there's the part where he's laying with his hands full out. You can sit there and explain that all you want until the cows come home. But that does not, you can get a ballistic expert, that does not explain the position of the gun. I don't care what baloney anyone tells you about, oh, guns can do this or guns can do that after the trigger's pulled. I'm sorry, there's some things that are clean, cut, and dry, and projectiles, guns will only do a certain thing in a certain way if it's done in a certain way. You know, you cannot make them magically dance around a room. Okay? And then the fact that when the guy's laying on the ground and the wife's sweater is over his feet, please pay attention to what it is you're looking at. There are some things that cannot happen if everything happens the way the report says. It can't. It has to be done another way. And if you can show that that was being ignored, that even the possibility, you never want to use definitives. That's one of the advices I will give you. You never use definitives. You know, no, you're setting yourself up for a heartache. But if you can show with inconsistency after inconsistency after inconsistency after inconsistency, which I do believe, I think there's enough circumstantial evidence of that. And if it's put out there in the public purview, then, you know, if the state's attorney general doesn't want to deal with it, because you never know what someone's interest is in something, you can put this out there. And even the only person more stronger than the state's attorney general is the public. They are more stronger than any state's attorney general will ever be. And we know this as Americans as fact, because a president, any president who's at the top of the list, at the top of his game, can be brought down by the public. And so, yeah, it's a very, very powerful thing.
So I'm looking at the Attorney General there, Lori Swanson. So is that the person?
I don't know who the state's Attorney General is from Minnesota.
Yeah, her name is Lori Swanson.
But
so it sounds like that's...
If you bring it to her, you must know that you have got to have your best people, your top shelf people on it. You gotta check your information over and over and over again. Make sure everything's concise. Make sure everything is consistent. And you give that to them, because just pretend that you're giving some type of proposal or something to the President of the United States. You're not going to wing it. And if things are so clear that there is no way that you can ignore it, that's what you want.
Okay. And the only thing at that point that would stand in our way, let's say we get everything set up, right? The only thing that would stand in our way would be the family wall. Some say, sound like it would just take one side of the family to say, yeah, we don't want you to investigate in this.
The state's attorney general has the power, because they have the responsibility to mete out justice according to the law. And if they find something that where the law has short-stepped on, where the law did not give justice to society or something like that, then what the family what the family feels will be irrelevant and inconsequential, because they are, by their office, they are mandated.
So, Greg, it's irrelevant about the families if you go to the state attorney level.
Okay.
I didn't
cool.
hear you.
Got it.
I just wanted to confirm, Russell, that it's even if the families do not agree, you can still take it to the state attorney and move it forward there and have them review
If the evidence is of such a nature that the state's attorney general warrants that the investigation be reopened, because there has been examples where, generally speaking, because of religious beliefs, because of social beliefs, because of taboos or whatever it is, there have been cases where decedents have not been autopsied, where they're not cremated and all this stuff. But if the information shows that there was some kind of criminal intent or something like that, then that a crime actually that was committed, that somehow someone short-stepped and justice was not served, then what the individual family may believe or may think doesn't hold water. They can go over the family's head, they can cremate, they can do autopsies, they can do whatever. And in those cases, the family has nothing to say. So
how quickly can they cremate?
Oh, you can if, especially if you have money, you can have someone cremated if you have money, or if you are in the know, within 24 hours of the body actually being sent to the coroner. It's quite fast. But you have to do it fast enough where you sidestep everything. Because before it is decided that a real crime had occurred, yes, the family can demand the body be cremated. But once it's been determined that a criminal act, that a crime did commit, and a felony was committed, and that felony led to the deaths of the decedents, then they can sit there and request all they want, and it's not going to happen. But now if you have an unscrupulous person, they can go ahead and sidestep that before anyone else can stop them and have the body cremated. So it's not a hard thing to do.
Well, now could they do that for all three bodies? Because
yes,
only 2 of those 3 bodies were actually cremated. So is there a way that they could say, hey, I just want to make sure these 2 bodies are cremated?
It would seem odd. I mean, if you are a forensic pathologist, or you're just a regular medical examiner of any weight, that would seem, I would question that. Now, whether or not you can go against that legally, that's a different story. Because they cannot just decide arbitrarily or unilaterally, well, I don't like the way you asked that, or I don't like your request, so I'm not going to let you do that. No, they can't do that. Even though they may think this is odd. This is why it's so important, and I like to stress that, it's so important to make sure everything's done right the first time. Because in forensics, there is no do-overs. You cannot go back and have a second chance. Now you can go and you cannot recreate the evidence. You cannot put everything back the way it was. That's just not the way it happens. But what you can do is you can work with the evidence, and you can work with how that was collected. You can work with the ineptability of however it was studied or investigated and stuff like that. So you're going on the legal aspect, but there is no do-overs in forensics. That's why it's extremely important everything be done painfully the way it should be done.
Russell, by going through the crime scene photos, were there any that jumped out at you in particular that you can remember that helped with your decision and your view of the case that others may want to be interested in by looking at here?
Yes, I would say the biggest things that is the Islamic stuff. I would have to say that and the picture of the bay window, and take a look at that picture, and you will see I think it was the medical examiner's van or the CSI van or whoever it was out front, and take a look at that picture and just imagine that picture in a dog being seen at that front window. Imagine how that would be. And after you imagine it, then go back and look at the picture. What you imagine, what should have been, isn't what you're seeing. So either someone's outright lying, or they're lying by what is that called? By you know, when I'm at a loss right here, but you know, you lie by not telling
by
omission.
Omission?
Yes, you're lying by omission. Because if you read the account that is written in the police report and then take a look at that window, the two things could not have happened. Only one of those things could have happened. Both of them could not. So it's either the scene is wrong or the report is wrong. So there's that. There is the photograph of the man laying there with or the report of the man laying there with the wife's sweater over his feet. What should have happened, what happened, and what was written to happen are completely different, and that should not be. That should not be. Then I would question the veracity of whether or not the door was actually opened. You're
talking about the back door?
Yes,
or the front door?
I would question the veracity of whether that door was actually opened or not.
When it was open or not during the killings, or?
Yeah, it just doesn't matter whether it was open or not. Doesn't matter who did or did not open. It's whether or not the door was open. Because how the dog is acting, how everything is supposed to react, and how the report is stating, and how someone's saying the dog looked, and then how someone's saying the dog didn't look, and then the fact that the door was open, so there's always a chance for the dog to get out. See, something's not right. It's either the crime scene is wrong or the report is wrong. And God forbid both of them be wrong.
Well, I mean, we do have photos of the back door open and closed, so that was another thing of why the police took photos of the rear slider both open and close. But they did that with other doors, where they would show they take pictures of doors being open and doors being closed.
No.
They've done that with the 3 toilet seats. They have photos of the toilet seats open and the toilet seats closed.
And see, this is the problem that you run into. And here's the problem. You go in while everything's still in situ, and you take pictures once, and only once, of everything. You take pictures. You do not worry about the amount of pictures. You over-picture everything. And that should be it. Those are the pictures that should be turned in as evidence. You don't go back and take pictures again. I try to stress that to my students. And this is something people really got to get into their mind. There are no do-overs in forensics. There is no second chance. Everything's done right the first time. And it's those pictures and only those pictures that should be submitted as evidence. Now, if they're taking pictures of a toilet seat up, and then somebody goes back and takes a picture of a toilet seat down, there's something not right there. Because was the toilet seat up or was it down? It doesn't matter if it was up or was down. It's got to be either or. It can't be both.
But is there any reason for them to take those photos? Just to show what it looks like open and shut?
No. Because unfortunately, this is the other problem with TV. TV just does such a bad thing for this. Everything in situ, the very first time. Pictures are taken of everything. Now, the only time that I could see them closing the toilet seat and taking a picture of it open and then closing it to take a picture is if they found trace evidence, or they found bodily fluid, they found blood, they found something that was on the back of the toilet seat. Then, during the first time, there should not be a huge time disparity between the pictures. Okay? And so then they would take the picture of the seat closed, because you have to close it because you have to get the pictures in situ. I mean, that's all there's to it. And and those pictures are taken before the techs come in and do their work. Once techs get there is no going in there and taking pictures again. There is no do-overs. Now, if someone did that and there's a disparity in the timeline between the picture was taken and the other picture was taken, and it's both being entered as official evidence, I would question that. I would have to ask, I can't accuse, but I would have to ask, what was the justification and why the time disparity? That's why I said in my open statements, it's very crucial, because the time, once that timeline starts, from the moment that police, that very first responder sees that there could have been a crime committed, you are on the clock. And time becomes a very valuable commodity. There is no do-overs.
Well, I want to thank you, Russell, for your time tonight, because I think this has been a very enlightening discussion. Greg, do you have any other further questions or anything else you can think of, Russell?
No.
Yeah, I don't have anything further. If you do, Greg, and if not, I think we can wrap it up. But this is very well done. I appreciate your time speaking with us tonight.
I know it sounds corny, but this is why I live. I'm very passionate about what I do. I don't love it and I don't like it. That to me is tantamount to a hobby, and hobbies have no place in forensics. I'm passionate about this. So.
Very good, very good. Well, once again, appreciate your time. And can't thank you enough. That's really appreciated. It's awesome. All right, Greg, I think we can wrap up. You can shut up the recording, and what we'll do is publish this, and people can listen to it at their leisure here in the future. But thanks again for your time. We really appreciate your time, Russell.
Anytime, because this is what I live for.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, bye.
Alright, so I'm going to be taking a look back to the original notes that I had where it all started. When we first got the 94 pages of police reports and the 464 photos. So the first note I have is a total of 9 officers/detectives involved in the investigation. This was reported at 12:56 p.m. on January 17, 2015. Police arrived on the scene at 13:04 p.m. And then the scene was cleared. According to my notes here, the scene was cleared at 17:09. Okay, so I have a note here on page 3. Officer John Broughton wrote in his report that Judy Prochnow discovered the bodies after going to check on the family and packages that were left on the front doorsteps. Judy saw the bodies through the front living room window. It's page 3. Now we know that Colin Prochnow was actually the one who found these bodies, who first called in these bodies. So if you were just to read this in a certain way, you might interpret it that Judy Prochnow found the bodies first, when we know that's not true. Colin did. This is interesting. John Broughton did not see any other fresh footprints in the snow other than animal tracks. And the question was, whose animal tracks is Officer Broughton talking about on page 4? Now, what type of animals would be in that area? Over here, of course, cats, right? Cats, dogs. We have the raccoons here. We have skunks here. We have other critters here. So when they say animal tracks, that to me doesn't... It could mean a lot of different things. Okay, Broughton also says that the patio door was open slightly 1/4 inch, not locked or secured with a bar lock. Still page 4. Let's see, the only light that was on was the dining room light. Still page 4. The Christmas tree lights and other strings of Christmas lights were still lit. So this also was like a little head scratcher when I first read it. I was like, okay, so they're saying there's only one... The only light on in the house was the dining room light, yet the Christmas tree lights and other strings of Christmas tree lights were still lit. So it wasn't just the dining room light. There were other lights that were on too. That's pretty much what it's saying. The Prochnows told the police that they had very limited contact with the Crowleys, who almost always have their drapes pulled down on their living room window. They thought it was unusual that the drapes were up recently for such an extended period of time. The Prochnows believed they last saw the Crowleys just before Christmas. Still page 4. Okay, so the neighbor across the street at 1048 Ramsdale Drive last saw the Crowley family sometime just before Christmas. That's page 4. We're going to talk about Mr. Brett, or / Brent. We'll talk about him later. All right, Officer Greg Dahlstrom noticed several obviously deceased bodies lying on the floor near the front picture window. That's page 5 now. A dog was lured outside and captured. Okay, Sergeant Greg Dahlstrom arrived at the Crowley house first, page 11, and met with some neighbors. Now, Broughton took photos of the exterior early on before any crime scene tape was put up. So the 464 photos that we got were most likely, the ones that are titled DSC, were most likely taken from Officer John Broughton. CSO Booth was able to coax the dog out of the residence. Very important to note that the mailman comes around 1 p.m., page 11. So we kind of get a good idea of about what time the mailman might usually show up, about 1 p.m. Lorraine Tuppy, living at 1047 Ramsdale Drive, told police that she hadn't seen the Crowleys in over 3 weeks. Colin Prochnow came over and asked if she knew where the Crowleys might be. Tuppy stated that she thought they had possibly gone to Texas for the holidays and just weren't back yet. Page 11/12. So she knew that the family, so Tuppy knew that the Crowleys would go to Texas, and Tuppy also had David's phone number, one of David's phone numbers. So I think one of 4 phone numbers of the Crowleys. So I thought that was very interesting when you couple that with the fact that if you look on David Crowley's bulletin board in that back room, kind of by the kitchen area, next to where the bookshelves are or whatever, you can clearly see, somebody pointed this out, you can see Colin Prochnow's number is pinned to that bulletin board. I found that very curious because when I spoke with Judy, she said, you know, she didn't really know them, didn't really talk to them, might have talked with David once, maybe twice, but maybe not the same for Colin. I mean, obviously there's some reason why David would have Colin Prochnow's phone number. At least I would think so. So that was interesting to note. But yet, it doesn't sound like Colin or Judy had David's number that Tuppy had. So I found that very curious too. All right, then we go down to Tara Becker, and she reports that Colin Prochnow said that he heard and saw the dog inside of the Crowley residence early this morning and thought it unusual since he had not seen anyone come and go from the Crowley residence. He conferred with his wife Judy, and she made mention to him to check and see if the Christmas presents that were on the front stoop were still there. It's page 12. Colin then went outside and noted that the Christmas presents that they had observed being on the front stoop on January 10, 2015, when they left to go to the airport, were in fact still on the front stoop today. So from January 10, 2015, till the bodies were found 7 days later, January 17th, those presents were there. There's no indication that they noticed, that anybody noticed those presents being there before that time, before the 10th at the very least. Now, we will also note that the neighbor across the street, Brent or Brett, however you want to say it, the one who lived at 1047 Ramsdale Drive, right across the street, looked at David, saw him, from what we're going to read here. He said that he didn't notice those presents on the front stoop until January 17th. So, not very nosy neighbors, which is a very good thing. It's not a bad thing. Okay, Colin Prochnow also observed that the presents were actually scattered about, and he picked them up and stacked them back up. Colin then checked inside of the front picture window and observed what he thought to be dummies. Colin stated he now knows that they were the bodies of the deceased, but first he thought that they were dummies or some type of props that were left in the residence to appear as though they were home when they weren't. After looking inside of the residence, Colin then went back to his residence, told his wife Judy about what he had seen, and then she confirmed that they were deceased persons and immediately called 911. It's page 12. So we're back to the whole dummy thing, and that was one of the first things. I think a lot of the early conspiracies and, you know, the theories that the government killed David, or that they were in a witness protection program, or that it wasn't really them, was based on this. So you have Judy in the 911 call jumping the gun and already, you know, calling 911 and saying, I think there's a murder or a suicide here, which is kind of strange. And then here you have Colin, you know, from what he's saying, and he's being very honest here. He did not have to say that he thought that they were dummies at first, but now he realizes that they weren't. So maybe that's because in his 911 call, that's what he said. He said he saw what looked like dummies. He's later corrected on that. But I think that was a big point, because how could these, if you look at the way that the bodies were kind of laid out, there's no way that you would look at that scene and think that these were some type of props that were left in the residence to appear as though they were home when they weren't. That was interesting. Now, that could be the police putting words into Colin Procknow's mouth, kind of just going through a summary. We need the actual statements, the actual quotes. That's what we need. All right, still on page 12 now. It was December 9th or 10th when Colin woke up between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m. to the sound of gunshots. Page 12. He checked out the back of his residence and thought it was fireworks. He thought the gunshots came from the area of the Crowley residence. Now, if you read on page 12, you'll see, well, first, Colin Procknow says kind of maybe towards the end of December, he's asked to kind of narrow it down. He comes down with maybe the 9th or the 10th. Okay, and this is one of the things, this is one of the big things that the media picked up on here. Is in September of 2014, Colin noticed a big change in David's appearance sometime in September of 2014. Most alarming to him was that he observed that David only dressed in army fatigues and had shaved his head into a style of a mohawk. Colin indicated that they never had a conversation about his appearance change, but they still had friendly contact after his change in his appearance in the September-October months of 2014. Page 13. So it's almost like nothing here, but if you were to read the media reports, those first ones, this was a big thing. They really pointed this out. They were really trying to paint David as well. He had this mohawk, like the guy from Taxi or Taxi Driver. Okay, there was another neighbor on Ramsdale Drive, Ann Hickson, and Hickson noticed that there is a certain light or candle that has come on every day since Christmas. Page 13. So maybe it was on a timer. Maybe these lights were on a timer. What is a certain light or the certain candle that comes on every day? I'm gonna guess and say, is it possible that it was the Christmas lights that weren't lights? There's only one light, the dining room light, but these Christmas lights, were they on a timer? So I haven't seen a timer in any of the photos that we've seen yet, but it might be good for us to keep an eye out, see if there's any evidence of any timer that might show why certain lights would come on at a certain time. So we have Brent/Brett, who lived at 1048 Ramsdale Drive, across the street. His window faced the Crowley residence. And when the police went back to speak with him, he was no longer there at the residence. So that was another question. Okay, what did police talk with him about? Why was he no longer there? More so, why did police need to even follow up with Brent/Brett? Well, Brent/Brett is the guy who looked out the front window, looked directly into David's front window, and saw what he thought was David, according to the police reports. They kind of looked at each other from a distance, and then Brent/Brett closed his blinds, and that was it. That was Christmas Eve. That was the last time he saw David. That was the last time anybody has reported seeing David. John Broden is the third officer to arrive on scene. The first one is Sergeant Greg Dahlstrom. Second one is Tara Becker. And then John Broden arrives. These are all the notes I have right here in this first section on the bodies. There could be more later on. So Broden says on page 4 of the 94-page report that David was found laying on his, quote, back with a black semi-auto pistol nearby. Kamel was laying on her, quote, stomach and or side, still page 4. Rania, here's what Broden says about Rania. Between the two adult bodies was the body of a small child. Between the two adult bodies was the body of a small child. Page 4. Okay, now we're kind of jumping around here to page 22, looking at Tommy Booth and what Tommy Booth said. That Rania, quote, appeared to be in a later stage of decay and was missing her right arm. Page 22. Still talking about Rania, the head was found in between the legs of Kamel pointing west. Page 22. Rania's right arm was missing from the body. She was in a later state of decay. We covered that. Just reading my notes here. Kamel was pointing west, chest down on the floor. Her head, quote, could not be seen on the initial view. She also did not have either hand. This is page 23 from Tommy Booth. As far as David, it says laying on his back with his body point toward the east and both arms spread outward from the body was David Crowley. David Crowley was missing his right arm, quote, black semi-auto handgun, several inches from his left hand. Page 23. Small portion of his rear skull still attached to the spinal column, but a large portion of the head was missing. Page 23. Blood on the flooring between the dining room and living room. Still page 23. They found a Mac laptop open on the kitchen counter, plugged into a power source. There was a thermostat, right here there was a thermostat at 68 degrees in the hallway. There was a thermostat that was set to 68, to hold at 68. So it was no more than 68. I think we can at least agree on that, right? Quote, some small spots of what appeared to be blood in the area. So in that area where that thermostat is, still page 23. He also writes that there was a small amount of marijuana on top of the dresser. There was a small gun safe on the nightstand next to the bed, still page 23. The safe was open. Set of keys inside, semi-auto magazine, loaded with 40 cal hollow point bullets. Closet of the master bedroom, large green footlocker with a padlock, page 23. One of the lesser known things that I've really looked into is that picture of the footlocker and what's in that footlocker, the green footlocker. Now there is a photograph of the master bedroom sink, and I did think that there was blood in there. I do believe that I'm wrong. I think a lot of other people are right that it's not blood in that master bedroom sink. I'm still curious as to what it really is. So the bedroom, office, on the south side of the residence, page 23, there's a love seat, a desk, Apple computer on desk, file cabinet, notepad and pen, kind of a to-do list is what I have here. And that's based on, we're still on page 23. Okay, there was paper that had blood on it, and it said, quote, open the Rise most recent version. Submit to Allah now. Still on page 23. Then we're going to go to page 24, where he's talking about Rania. Entry and exit bullet holes into the skull of the child. Okay, so this was noted because he found entry and exit bullet holes into the skull of the child. And because he said holes, so I was like, oh, so she was shot twice? What's going on here? Why is he saying holes? But he could mean the entry hole is one hole, exit hole is another hole, two holes. Holes. In the skull of this child. Still page 24. So, I'll go with that. I do wonder where that bullet ended up. Kamel had 2 entry bullet holes into the skull of the adult female. As far as Kamel, there were 2 entry bullet holes into the skull of the adult female, still on page 24. Doesn't say anything about exit wounds here. If most of her head was missing, I'm curious to understand why they thought that, why they came to that conclusion. As far as David goes, there was 1 exit bullet hole in the skull of the male adult, page 24. Also page 24, oh, I cannot read my handwriting. Page 24, mention of the medical examiner report, which we later got. I really wanted to get that. So on page 24, it was mentioned, and I made a note of that. David, when found, the majority of his head was missing. Okay, so now we're jumping down. That was page 24. Now I'm jumping down to page 45 here. Page 45 is written by Brian Bone, 1/21/2015 at 11:54 a.m. The majority of David's head was, quote, missing, and, quote, only the back part of his skull still in place. Page 45. Only the back part of his skull was still in place. The upper spine was also exposed. Ooh, gruesome. Left hand was in place. Right hand was missing. Page 45. It said he was barefoot, pants, shirt, top of body facing east, feet facing west. Page 45. Still page 45 now. Kamel, the majority of her head was missing. Only the back lower part of her skull was still in place. Page 45. So how do they see 2 entry bullet holes with most of this head missing? Has to show. It has to. We can imagine. Both hands missing. Page 45. Both hands are missing. Pants, heavy socks, corset, page 45, and a shirt. Doesn't say what shirt she had on. I think obviously she had a few shirts on, but one of the shirts that she had on was a Gray State shirt. She was wearing a Gray State shirt. Top of body was found facing west. Feet facing east. She was on her stomach. Feet spread apart. Body of Rania was, quote, lying partially between her legs. Still on page 45. Still on page 45, now we go to Rania, where Brian Bone reports that Rania's entire right arm and shoulder socket are missing. Body is found on the left side. Head is facing northeast. Feet facing southwest. Sweatpants, short sleeve or short sleeveless shirt. Page 45. For David, the gun was found on the left side of the male's body to the south by approximately 1 foot. Still page 45. The gun was loaded with a round in the chamber and a magazine inserted into the gun at the time of its discovery. Bullet was also found downstairs in the basement ceiling wall, which was directly below. Something on page 45 is censored here. And wow. I'm going to have to look at what is censored on page 45 because we have the uncensored version in the big 485 page document, the BCA document, 485 pages. It has this same police report in there on page 45. It must be like on the 485 page document. It's got to be somewhere page 80, page 90, somewhere like that. But it is uncensored in that other document. But for now, we're just looking at these 94 pages. And this is the first censored part that I've seen here. First major censored part. Page 45. Keep that in mind. Very important. Beautiful day here in Aruba. I just wanted to let everybody know, remind everybody, I guess I should say, the purpose of the group is to find justice for David Crowley. I really want to remind everybody, these are real people with real lives, and at the end of the day, at the end of every day, Lord willing, God willing, we get to go home. We get to go home and go back to our lives. These people don't, and they never will. And I know a lot of you already know that, I'm preaching to the choir, but I just feel like it's got to be said. It needs to keep being said. We need to remind each other. These are real people here, so whatever we do, wherever we go, wherever God leads us, just make sure we're doing what we're doing for the right reason, okay? This is not a marathon. This is a marathon. Of course it is. It's not a sprint. Now, if you can sprint to the finish line, solve this case, then great. Obviously, I can't. I've been here 3 years and I'm still looking, right? Still trying to figure out what is going on here. So I just felt it was important right now. Looking at all this, looking at everything, you can see in the back, beautiful ocean, everything created by God, all we have. It's very important. If we're gonna do the right thing, we've gotta be honest, we've gotta be truthful, not deceptive. Don't be deceptive towards anybody. Truth will guide us if we let it. If we try to guide truth, that's where we mess up. So it's just looking at this place, it really just really reminded me of that fact that at the end of the day, I get to go home. I get to go back to my wife, to my family, to my nieces and nephews, my brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, grandparents, everybody. I'm so blessed. So I just want to remind people of that, and to remind myself too. Note to self, Greg. These are real people. Take this seriously or don't take it at all. This is not for entertainment purposes. There's nothing entertaining about this. This is for research purposes. This is because we want to find what the truth is. And if you're not looking for the truth, then you probably shouldn't be in this group. Thank you very much. May God be with you all. Let God lead you, let God guide you. We'll get there. I have no doubt we're going to get there. The truth is close. I do believe we are close. Every day we get a little bit closer. But it's all about what God wants us to do, where He wants us to go. If He puts road barriers, puts blocks in our way, we have to respect that. I don't see any so far. I don't believe we're going to see any. But I could be wrong. Been wrong before. Shall be wrong again. I say God bless everybody. Keep going, keep searching. Do not let people stop you from searching. Do not let them stop you from trying to figure out what is really going on here. So when we get there, we'll get to the truth. God bless you all. Amen.
As we discussed in prior conversations, in the DCA lab reports for the DNA, there are 3 bullets that have Camille's DNA profile on it. And the bullets that were used, the .40 caliber hollow points, when they're fired, they become like a mushroom. And the parts that will travel, that part of the bullet that travels through you, when it becomes a mushroom, there's these little ridges around the top that come out that are like petals. And that's what rips through your skin, through your body, and bone. It will collect all that around those little ridges. And so the 3 bullets, 42, 43, and item 44, all had just Kamal's DNA on it, which would leave the assumption that they all 3 had gone through Kamal's body. Most of her head was missing, and her hands were missing. So we honestly don't have an actual trajectory of where each single bullet went through. They were able to pick up some skull fragments, but I don't believe that they were able to pick up enough. The 3 bullets that you have photos of, 42, 43, and 44, that were right on the carpet, the ones that were actually fired, those belong to Camille.
Okay. I'm just writing that down.
And those were the ones that were found the very first day. The bullet that was fired through the floor into the basement wall, that was the item 45.
Okay.
And there was no DNA profile on that bullet, which means it did not go through anybody at all.
Okay.
It would have, those type of bullets, they would have collected something if it went through somebody. It would have collected tissue, bone. I mean, they're horrible. They're wicked bullets.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen any of the videos on YouTube, but the damage that they do, oh my goodness. There's a reason why some people use them.
How long would that DNA or anything, blood, all that stuff, flesh, how long would it stay on these bullets? Do we have any indication of that?
Well, they're inside a house, and so it's in a controlled environment. There's not rain or rushing water or anything like that coming down on them. Because I'm not an expert, it would be very hard for me to give you an actual time frame. It can corrode over time, DNA, but that's over a long period of time and exposed to elements. In a house where things are not actually, like the environment is not ruining it, in my opinion, it would last for an extremely long time. To give you an example, or to compare the bullets, the attic one, that one was found a month after the body was discovered. They only found touch DNA on that one. There was no blood detected. That would be on page 26 of the BCA report. So that would leave the assumption that it's just touch DNA if there wasn't blood on there.
Meaning the bullet was just fired into the ceiling. It didn't. It's not the bullet that killed, like you've said many times already. And it's not the bullet that David killed himself with.
Yes, and it's the same type of bullet that was used in these killings, though. So David had handled that bullet in his hands as he put it into the clip magazine. So that DNA still stayed on that bullet, even after fired and gone through the ceiling and landed in the attic someplace. I believe it's page 31 in the PDF file for the BCA lab report. They compared item 31, a bullet fragment, against the test-fired bullets from item 1 and item 57. They were performed, and the results were the following. Item 57 against 31 showed the presence of matching features. This means item 1 fired 31. The bullet fragment that is item 31, it was found over towards the window. There's a casing that was found there also. That's closer to where David would have been, I think.
That makes me think they're not 100% sure this came from the same gun. And how can they be if they found it 1 month later? They shouldn't be. So.
That's the impression that I'm getting also. I'm looking at the photos. It would be for item 30. would have been the casing that they found over by the window. Item 2, the cartridge case. Edge of the carpet and recliner in living room. Item 3, cartridge case by the small stool in the living room. Item 7 is a live round. It is on the rug by hair clamps and torn Koran pages. Item 9 is a cartridge case on the rug by the Koran page. Item 30 is a cartridge case under the bookcase by the big window. The bullet fragment was item 31 by the bookcase, 3 yoga mats by big window. Item 36 is a cartridge case by torn Koran pages by the couch on the rug. Item 37, cartridge case by the corner of the rug by couch and by the pink Surface Pro. Then the bullet 42, 43, and 44 near Camille on rug. Item 45 is a bullet and basement wall. Bullet 53 is the one that fell out of the rug after the cleaners moved the rug. And then 57 is the attic bullet.
It doesn't make sense that they would say, okay, we found 2, 3, 9, 30, 36, and 37 on the 17th, but we didn't find the 6 bullets that matched it.
But somehow they missed 53 and 57 that first day, too. If they
You're right, they missed 50.
On that day.
Yeah, you're right, they missed 53, because they found 53 a couple days after.
Mm-hmm.
They found 53 on January 19th, 2015. So they missed 2 bullets when they left the house.
Mm-hmm. Because anything that they found after that day, they give it a higher number. For instance, 53 was found a few days later.
I wonder what 54, 55, and 56 are now, too.
54 is classified as CD with images. And then after that it says item 28/1.1.
They weren't even expecting 53 through 57.
Or 57.
Yeah. I'm sorry, you said 54, 55, and 56?
54 is images. 55, a CD with questioned handwriting. 56 is with footprints. It's more images. 57 is the bullet in the attic.
They were not expecting to find any of that.
No, they weren't. These are things that were brought to their attention.
Yeah, or else they would have never known about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Which gives you a headache. Because
I mean, come on, okay, things outside of the house, like an extra journal, whatever, other stuff later, yeah, but anything in the house, man, you guys should not have missed anything inside of that house, period. I think it's a known fact that there's no blood, no flesh, nothing. None of Camel's blood or flesh were found on the daughter and vice versa.
Not a single sample that was DNA tested had David or Lainey's blood in it. It would be interesting to see if the rest of the blood that was taken, that they took samples of, even comes back with their DNA on it. I mean, how is it possible that 3 people were brutally shot in a house, but there's no mixtures of their blood?
That just can't be. They can't all die in the same room at the same time. You can't have the mother and daughter die in the same room at the same time. It just doesn't add up. That part just does not add up.
Tommy Booth had gone through and had picked the items that should have been tested. The rest were then being held at the BCA lab. These were random tests. So the odds of David and Lainey's blood not being found is just, I mean, it just leaves you thinking, how is that even possible? It was almost like, and this is just an assumption, to me, it seems like David and Lainey were killed someplace else, brought back, and then Kamel was killed there. And that's the only explanation for why just her blood is found. But like I said, it's an assumption. I am not saying that as a fact.
Right.
Because I don't have the actual proof besides DNA.
Well, and is there any of David's blood, any of his flesh, found on any of the other 2?
No. No, the only DNA found of David is on the gun and the magazine. And then there's touch DNA that was on the bullet in the attic and the knife. When you touch something, you leave hundreds of little skin cells. Logically, if he stepped in her blood and left footprints, there would be DNA from him if he was barefoot. There would be. Skin cells will be in there. Just like the wall. Unless he wore gloves and he wrote on that wall, his DNA would have been in those samples. Especially because he's like rubbing against the wall.
There's no fingerprints. How do you tie it to David Crowley?
That's right. Unless gloves were worn or if they used some type of item to write it with, but they didn't take the scarf into evidence. So right. I know that several people had discussed the scarf that was bloody. That was never taken in evidence, so I'm fairly certain it no longer exists.
Which is crazy. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I agree. Why not test the clothing? Just to rule out any other intruder or anything like that. I mean, just think of the evidence that could be on there. Not only would there have been the gunshot residue, but they would have also shown other DNA. Several of the tests, I believe it was 7 tests, came back with mixed DNA of 2 to 3 more people, yet we don't know if that was contaminated. We don't know if that could have been DNA left by whoever committed the murders.
Right.
We don't know what to think. But if we would have had the clothing at least tested, we could find out if there was signs of the killer on there, anything. I mean, there's just so much more information. But it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. The more that we look at this, the more we see there's nothing that ties David Crowley to any of this. Why would they think that David Crowley would have written this on the wall in his wife's blood?
The submit to Allah now on the post or on the notepad. I don't believe that the now was even written by David. I believe it was written by another person. His N's are completely different. The O is different. The W he writes his ends in almost like a lowercase kind of rounded N. That one, it looks like it was written by a left-handed person. There's different things throughout the crime scene where you sit there and you look at it, and it's like the person who wrote the now on that note, I'm fairly certain is the one who wrote on the wall. Some of the writing just lines up with it, the angle. I've come to the conclusion that David didn't do this, even in the reports. Detective Bone, he states over and over that no forced entry, there was no signs of struggle, no apparent missing items. So the only conclusion he can come up with is the fact that David did this, because he didn't see signs of forced entry. And then you're thinking to yourself that the back door was left open? Why would there be forced entry? Like the Submit to Allah, which is really, really weird, was spelled one way, and then you look at the wall, and the Allah Akbar is written in a different way than the Allah is on the notepad.
Right.
David, from all reports, he was very consistent in the things that he did. So why would he spell Allah one way and Allah a different way on the wall? I think I can say with certainty that this was not an Islamic hit.
But could it have been something made to look like one?
Oh yeah.
And then the other question is, well, was that David who made it, who wanted to make it look like something that it wasn't?
I have thought about that. I just don't see the rationality behind it, but I also don't see the rationality of killing your wife and child.
Right. Which is why they had to make him look crazy. They had to make him look crazy, or else then it's like, well, there's no way he would have done this. So they had to go to that crazy point. And the fact that they did it so early and so soon was just strange. Very, very strange.
It was within hours that they came to that conclusion. I'm almost fairly certain that they came to that conclusion as they walked into the house, starting from the 911 call.
Yeah, that's where they got the first line.
I think, like I stated before, the really big thing that keeps bugging me is the lack of DNA or mixture DNA found in Camille's blood.
Right.
Still bugs me. The odds of their blood not showing up at all. If they were killed in that same general area, it should be there.
Yeah.
And it's not. How does it not bug the police? How are they not questioning it? I think they just wanted to close this case.
I really think there's something very different, something very special about this group. Now, I'm not firmly convinced that David Crowley is innocent. The problem, again, it just goes back to the same thing. The problem is obviously we're not seeing any proof that David Crowley is guilty. And the more that we look at the police records and the more that we look at the documents, their own documents, you can clearly see that there's something wrong here. It's not making sense. It does not add up. Something is missing. A big piece of this puzzle, a big part of this puzzle is missing. And I don't know what that is, but I do think it is out there. It got very, very strange when you had people who were involved, people who were close to David saying that same thing. Well, you get one or two people saying that, that's one thing. When you got like almost everybody saying it, or they're not saying anything, it was just like they went silent. A lot of people just went silent. Some other people did go rogue. I do believe some people did go rogue. And but a lot of other people just kind of, they fell in line, and it was just like, David's guilty, that's it, story over, case finished, right? And we're like, 2 weeks in now, it's like, wait a minute, we don't have anything. What do you guys know that we don't know? I really wasn't even thinking, oh, the government did it, this or that. I was really looking for the evidence to just prove David Crowley guilty, help people understand why he was guilty, and move on. And there's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there. I joined this group. I stayed in this group. I wanted to hear what other people thought. I still want to hear what everybody thinks. We have 2,100 people in there. A lot don't comment, but I was thinking about this while I was driving home today. We have a strong silent group. If you look at it, it's a very strong group. And there are people that post all the time like me. There are people that never post that might contact people privately. And there are people that post every now and then. But we're talking 2,100 people that, for whatever reason, are looking at this. Not only looking at this, because this is a public group. You don't have to be a member to see what goes on in this group. So that's the other difference. But I joined this group because I really wanted to understand what was happening here.
Colin and I had a discussion about the Christmas gifts. I asked him if they were still on the steps. And he said, I'll go look. So he went over there, and he was going to gather them up and bring them home, but instead he just started stacking them on the steps. And then the dog attacked the window, and he thought, well, that's really weird because they were out of town. They wouldn't have their dog home. So he rang the doorbell, knocked on the door, and nobody answered. So then he got curious. He peeked through the window, and he saw what he wanted to be mannequins. And the reason he said mannequins is because of the shape, condition the bodies were in. Without heads and things like that, you just don't expect to see headless bodies anyway. He came home and told me, and I said that sounded kind of silly. And so I went over with them, and we both looked in again, and I saw David laying on the floor away from the Camilla and the baby. And I looked at him because I couldn't I thought it was a mannequin at first too, and then I realized it wasn't, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong until I noticed that there was a spine with a small piece of the skull attached. And then I looked over by the couch. David was more over by the Christmas tree. I looked by the couch, and I saw a big bundle of things. I thought at first it was a big butt. And then I saw a little hand, and then I realized that, they were all dead, and it was our neighbors. So I went back to our house, and Colin went to the neighbors. That's what I saw.
Okay, and that led you to think that it might be a suicide?
Well, I'm not one of you. I'm not suspicious if someone dies. I don't automatically think they were murdered. I just saw.
But you did say murder or suicide. It's just interesting that you would say both. Why you'd say either?
Well, I meant murdered as in Camille and the baby. It just jumped in my head because they were all dead, and that was the only way I could think of, that they would be, is that he murdered them and then committed suicide because there was a gun next to him. Did
you ever have those feelings before about David, that he might do something like this?
No, never. We were never afraid of him. I know it's been said that we were worried about his haircut and army fatigues, but that didn't bother us at all. That's fake news.
Well, yeah, but Colin said in the police report that he noticed a big change in David's appearance, but
Yes,
um,
that's all we noticed.
most alarming to him was that he observed that he only dressed in army fatigue.
Yeah, that was
Good.
That was the police report. Colin
Right,
wasn't
so that's their
alarmed
version.
by it.
Okay. But you also said that, you were talking about how I don't know, how David was outside of social media. So did you know that David was actually mentally ill and all this stuff while he was living next door to you, or did you find out after these deaths too?
I found out after.
Okay, so then we're
in
the
some
same
evidence.
After you saw some evidence.
And I talked to family members and friends.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like you were kind of, in the same boat. Then we were kind of both just looking for whatever happened.
Mhm.
We just maybe I didn't speak to some of the people that you've spoken to that have convinced you why he did this. I hope they also told the cops too.
They don't know why he did it.
Then how do they know that he did it?
Because there's obvious proof. There's in the diary that they found on the computer.
Not in the police reports. There's no obvious proof there because they don't mention it.
You only received a small portion of the reports.
I was told that I received everything.
You received everything that they were willing to make public.
Oh, okay. So you think stuff that isn't public?
David left the digital diary, the one on the computer that he hid in a file. And in that, he talked about their plans and, personal things.
Is that the same diary that ended in November or October or November? So there were two journals.
2 online journals and 1 handwritten that I'm aware of. And in that diary,
that's the police miss.
I don't know. I know that I've been told that the handwritten journal was given to the police by the Crowley family when they went in there.
Was given to the police. So the police were in the house.
Mm-hmm.
This journal that a family member gave to the police was not in the house? It was outside their house?
No, it was in the house. They just had not found it. The house was, what you couldn't tell from the pictures is the house was stacked with, especially his office was stacked with papers and books and notebooks, and it was in what I assume is it was in a notebook. And why I assume that he was being mean to Kamel is because I read a part where he said that he hated the thing he loved the most, Kamel.
It was her that he hated, that he loved the most?
That's what he had written. I hate the thing I love the most, Kamel.
All right, so here is the big 485-page PDF. Now, it can be a little bit overwhelming when you download a PDF and you see that it's 485 pages. I get it, but it's worth it. It is worth going through. And I'm going to try to give you a little teaser here of why you should go through this, I guess. The first reason, obviously, is for facts or is for data. So if you don't believe what is being written in this report is necessarily facts, it is data. So we are collecting data. The first thing you're going to find from page 1 through 5 is the Minnesota BCA ACISS 2015-28. Report is dated 1/17/2015. You have the occurrence dates of 1/17/2015 at 1400 to 1/18/2015 at 5:30 a.m. 0530. Page 6 through 8 is Brian Bones' application for a search warrant, January 17th at 15:06 military time. That would be 3 p.m. Page 9 and 10 is the actual search warrant that is signed by the judge of the district court at 15:06. Page 11 is Brian Bones' receipt, inventory, and return. This shows that at 16:51 they searched the house, the vehicles, and the bodies. They collected items AV-1 through AV-22. Pages 12 through pages 13 are written by Sean McKnight. The receipt, inventory, and return. Date of search warrants issued by the judge is the wrong year on both pages, 12 and 13. The collected items AV-23 through AV-55 were collected, or at least written down, by Sean McKnight. And you can see on this, you can see that it's noted who actually collected that item. You'll see a TB, Tara Becker, SM, Sean McKnight, and so forth. BB, Brian Bone. So that's what those little indications are next to it. Page 14 through 17 is the Minnesota BCA ACISS Investigative Supplement Report, 2015-28/1. Report date is 1/22/2015. Two case files are mentioned here. The AVPD 15-303, and the other case file that is mentioned here is the MNBCA Forensic Laboratory S15-00662. Okay, so 1.1, 1.2, and 1.3 are CDs. There are 3 CDs out there. 1.1 contains the raw digital images of latent prints from the crime scene. 1.2 is a CD that contains raw digital images of handwriting on wall from the crime scene. And 1.3 is a CD containing raw digital images of bloody footprints found at the scene. Page 17 specifically mentions blood footprints. Now, I know that there is an image out there, a couple of them out there, that when I first saw the pictures of bloody prints on the kitchen living room area floor, I thought they were handprints. I really did. I go back and forth sometimes, but I do, right now at least, I do believe, yes, they are footprints. So I've been looking at any evidence of them being either footprints or any mention of them being fingerprints. But here, they are specifically mentioned on page 17 as footprints. So we're going to start there. Okay, we're going to say, okay, this is what the BCA, this is what the investigators concluded at this point, that they were footprints. What's even more interesting is that you can clearly see that it is one foot. It is a right foot. So here's what I have some notes for about page 18 and 19. This is a laboratory analysis request at the attention of Tommy Booth. The estimated due date for these latent prints would be 4/26/2015. The estimated due date for the question documents, which we'll cover later, would be 4/26/2015. So they're saying by 4/26/2015, they should have some answers about the latent prints and about the question documents. The circumstances and purpose of the analysis is for the latent print comparison and the handwriting analysis comparison. Sticking with that document on page 19, the document was submitted by Elizabeth Elyers of the BCA and received by Carol David on January 26, 2015 at 11:17:48. Page 20 is interesting because it's a draft page. Draft is written 3 times in red on this page, and there's really not much to this. This was filled out, and this is, okay, so we're getting into the ACISS report. Now remember, ACISS report 2015-28. And what you're going to see is a lot of these documents are going to have the same name ACISS report 2015-28, but then it's going to have a /2/3. Let's go to page 21. MNBCA ACISS attachment 2015-28/3. The report date is 1/26. This is the preliminary autopsy. Okay, so page 23, 24, and 25 are the press release report about this case regarding David, Kamel, and Rania, released by the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office. And it basically says David died as a result of a suicide, Kamel died as a result of a homicide, Rania died as a result of a homicide by 1/21. There's no doubt in their mind. Or they wouldn't have released those documents. But they needed to, especially for public panic, and really, especially just for all of the conspiracies. But I didn't think that they really gave the conspiracies any chance. They did not even want to consider a conspiracy here. That's the way I saw it. I don't see any. I mean, you can read these police reports and you can clearly see they're very careful to mention the public is not in danger. Everything is fine. We got this case solved. That's pretty much all we were getting. And that just fueled so many conspiracies. And instead of helping these conspiracy theorists kind of understand what was really happening, a lot of people just went silent. They went dark. And I can understand, it really puts the investigators in a very tough spot, especially if they really do want to help the public understand what happened here. It's a very tough spot now because it is an ongoing investigation. But at the same time, they're completely discrediting any possible theory of foul play. They're completely glossing over any possible explanation, any reason, anything that might show that they cannot prove David Crowley is guilty. It's one thing to accuse him, but it's another thing to actually prove it. They were successful in accusing him to a point, and up to a certain date is what I think. They were very successful in trying to convince the public and trying to convince the average person that David Crowley was guilty. They failed, and they continue to fail. And the reason the case needs to be reopened is because they will continue to fail to prove David Crowley is guilty because they cannot prove it. I truly, honestly believe that. Now, can I prove that they cannot prove it? Yes. If these documents, if what I have, if everything that I've seen is what they base their theory on, unless they have secret knowledge, some hidden information, unless they have things that we're not seeing, yes, I believe we can prove that they cannot prove David Crowley is guilty based on their evidence, based on their documents, based on their photographs, based on their reports, based on their comments, based on everything they have given us. There is no way that the police, that these investigators can look at the documents, look at the photos, look at everything they've given us and say, okay, you will understand now why David Crowley is guilty. They really didn't even try. They were already thinking it didn't matter what they told us. We were still going to think David Crowley was not guilty. That's their own fault. And they were monitoring the group page. They were monitoring the Justice for David Crowley and Family Facebook group and the Justice for David Crowley of Gray State Facebook page. So they knew that there were people like me who were not convinced. They lumped people like me into a category where everybody thought that the government killed David, and that was it. That's totally wrong, and that's totally unfair to real people who were really looking for what really happened here. They did a big disservice to us. So I think they were kind of like, well, it doesn't matter what we tell you, you're still going to think David Crowley didn't do this. And to me, that made it sound like, okay, so then you're not going to put any effort into it, right? That's pretty much what you're telling me, and that's what I told. Well, I didn't tell Gummert. That's what I should have told Gummert. Is you just said that no matter what, you think we'll still be convinced that David Crowley did not kill his wife and his daughter and then kill himself. Even though I've stated publicly many, many times that I'm open to it, that I want to see it, I want the evidence. They didn't even look at that. They didn't even care. Because it wasn't about that. Those are the people they should have been focusing on, not the people who were set that the government killed David, or that David was part of some global conspiracy, or it's going to release some movie that was going to change the whole world, or whatever. So they did a very big disservice to the public, because they did not help us understand. They didn't even take the time, really. So anyways, Gummert did. Gummert at least took the time to answer those questions. He tried to back out, kind of, not really back out, but at first he was not going to answer those questions. But he's a man of his word. Gummert is a man of his word, and he answered those questions, and I thank him for that. Page 26 is ACISS Attachment 2015-28/4, report date 1/26/2015, and this is in regards to the latent prints of David Crowley and the DD-214, which is his military record. That was requested by Chris Olson. Status was approved, and the approved date is 1/26/2015. The record originating date is 1/26/2015. It says on January 21st, 2015. Oh, here we go. Here's the FBI thing now. Because it was always, were the FBI involved? Were the Department of Homeland Security involved? Were the FBI involved? Who was involved? So now we have the one mention of the FBI in these documents. I think this is the only mention that you'll ever see. And it's only for Olson to request from the FBI, from the Minnesota FBI, David Crowley's fingerprint card taken by the U.S. military on 6/24/2003. And this FBI agent, Travis Yarberg, sent Olson David's DD-214 on January 21st, 2015. This shows they had David's fingerprint. This is going to be one of the most important things that you're going to read in these documents, simply because of they have one match to David's fingerprint, one. And it's on the notebook in the office bedroom. That's it. They don't have a fingerprint. They don't have a palm print of David's on that gun. They can't do it. Now you could say, well, it's because the gun was there for 3 weeks. You could say it's because of the dog. Whatever you want to say. That is a fact. They could not put the gun in David's hand. That's a big thing. It's a huge thing. It's one more reason to reopen this case, I think. You talk about the smoking gun. The bloody gun might be the smoking gun. Okay, so Olson gets the fingerprint card from the FBI on January 21st. Then on the following day, he receives David's DD-214 from SAIC Michael F. McDaniel. So even though we were told that the FBI were not involved, technically they weren't, and technically they were, right? They weren't involved in the investigation. There's no proof that they were involved in the investigation, but they were contacted. So, semantics, yeah, okay. I'll give them that one. And then page 28 through 31, another ACISS crime scene supplement, 2015-28/5. So now we're into the fifth part. Still dated 1/17/2015. The crime scene processing. That's what we're going to be going through here now. The BCA received a call at 14:17. They arrived at 15:30. Their work was completed on 1/18 on the following day at 4:30. The BCA, on page 28, you'll see the BCA took 800 photographs. They took a photograph of the exterior, the interior, general area, point of entry, no. Point of exit is no. Shoe prints, no. That was interesting. Footprints, yes. Tire tracks, no. Tool marks, no. Victim injuries, yes. Weapons, yes. So when you think about just another thing, going back to those shoe prints, I did notice that comparisons to the officer's shoe prints were made to shoe prints in the snow. And then I wondered, did the police ever compare David's shoes to the shoe prints in the snow? And then I wondered if the police ever compared David's shoes to the shoe prints in the snow. Page 31 shows Ellier's story. She was contacted by the BCA's Operations Center, and she was requested to respond to the crime scene in Apple Valley. SSA O'Donnell documented the crime scene through video, which was recorded onto a mini DVD and which was later transferred to a DVD for easy viewing. So the photos are on a DVD that is marked item .2. Page 32 and 33 cover the Minnesota BCA ACISS attachment 2015-28/7. So now we're to the seventh document associated with this. The report date is 2/13/2015 from 1705 to 1713. Okay, these reports and exhibits are received by the Apple Valley Police Department. Report by Chris Olson on 2/13/2015. S.A. Olson received 20 PDF files. 20 PDF files. These files included reports and other investigative exhibits relevant to this investigation. If you look at page 34 through 37, you get half a list of the top 200 donors. Start with number 1, and it's a big jump from number 1 to number 2. Okay, so page 38, you'll see here, we got the training here that Kamel and David took. If you're looking at page 40, you'll see Kamel's training verification through Quorum Security Incorporated. Page 43 has the gun that David gave to Danny Mason as a gift. Page 44, Kamel's firearms bill of sale, purchased on 7/25/2009 at the Gun Zone in Dallas, Texas. She paid with a check, total of $508.76. She bought a Springfield XD 40 caliber, serial number US 163310, signed by Kamel. Page 45 through 47 is David's training verification certificate, course completed on November 8, 2009, and done by the same company, Quorum Security. Page 48 is David Crowley's private firearm transfer to Adam Schambauer. It's dated September 17, 2010. It's given as a gift, and it's from the AR-15. It is the lower receiver, serial number 61242. Page 49 is a private firearms transfer from David Crowley to David Stark, dated June 17, 2012, conducted as a sale. David sold Mr. Stark a Springfield XD 40 caliber subcompact, serial number US 163310. Kamel buys this gun on 7/25/2009 in Dallas, Texas for $508, sells it, or David sells it, to David Stark June 17th of 2012. Page 50 through 133 are the police reports. And here we go again, the police reports. There are some police reports in here, and there are some police reports that are missing. The ones that are missing look like it's generally the ones at the end of the 94 pages. So that's curious. The last update that we get where the case is exceptionally cleared is not in this set of police reports. That's a big deal. The other interesting thing to notice about this is some of what was censored in the 94-page PDF is not censored here. So there is some good data there. There is some good stuff to actually go through. It'd be good to have a full comparison of everything about what is blocked out in the original 94 pages, and then compare that to what is not blocked out here in these 70 some odd pages that we have of police reports. Page 134, 137 is the BCA lab analysis request by Tommy Booth. The section involved the crime scene team. The estimated due date is 2/17/2015. Firearms, the estimated due date is 5/18/2015. Latent prints, the estimated due date 4/18/2015. The nuclear DNA, estimated due date 5/18/2015. And the question documents, estimated due date 4/18/2015. This is all on page 134. The evidence list begins on page 134 as well and goes through all of the items number 1 through 48. Now, you'll notice just 1 through 48 because right now they don't have 49 through 56, and then later they'll have 57. So you're going to see this document, 3 sets of the same document here. Okay, and as we move on to page 138, the AVPD press release. Now we're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these press releases. Note these dates, note these times. This is very important. All right, so on page 138, this is the very first one. This is the first press release. Suspicious deaths. And you'll note here, it does not mention a double murder or suicide. This was set to release at 3:30 p.m. January 17th, 2015. Little over 2 hours have passed, and the first press release goes out. Suspicious deaths. Doesn't really say much. Shouldn't say much because they don't know much. This one is dated January 18th, set for release at 11:40 a.m. This one does mention a murder-suicide. But they're very clear to make sure that there's no threat to public safety. To me, that shows, and I think this has been brought up many, many times, but just to say it again, it does show that by this time, the police were working with the theory that David Crowley was guilty. That is their working theory. They don't have 2 bullets yet. They don't have item 53. They don't have item 57. Item 57, obviously, they don't find that one until February 18th when they're told about it by Chris Klein, or else they would never have item 57. So thank you, Chris Klein. Think about that for a second. Let's say they never had item 57. This wouldn't match up. Nothing would match up. Of course, only 4 bullets and 6 casings found on January 17th does not match up either. So if you're still looking at page 139, you can see, based on this, that the medical examiner's office is still working to positively identify the 3 dead bodies. They haven't identified them yet, and they're already working with this theory that David Crowley is guilty. Even on January 19th, they don't have a positive ID, page 140. But they're already treating this as an apparent murder-suicide. So maybe they're just being cautious. Maybe that's just legal speak, and they're just making sure CYA. And on page 141, dated 1/21/2015 at 3 p.m. Now they have a positive ID. So by 1/21, they have a positive ID. They have already said that they believe that this was a murder-suicide. We can conclude that by 1/21/2015, the police are working with that theory that David Crowley is guilty. They're not looking at other theories. They're not looking at foul play. they've ruled out foul play. Okay, page 142 is going to be the fifth and final press release that we're going to see here. And the investigation is still ongoing. Last verified activity from the residents was late December of 2014, according to investigators. Captain John Brummel is actually quoted in this last one. He is quoted, "The analysis of these devices could provide important information about this incident, but that analysis will take time." Page 144, 145, and 146 all look like they are trying to identify Kamel. January 18th, 1:49 a.m. Ryan Olson sends Sean McKnight this image on page 145 to identify her by her tattoos. Probably one of the fastest, easiest ways to identify a person, I would think. We're going to move on to page 147. Page 147 shows how they were trying to identify David Crowley through the tattoos. And you will note that date originally sent from Ryan Olson to Sean McKnight on January 17, 2015. Okay, page 150 to 151 is a release form where they are releasing the dog to Dan Crowley Jr. The dog was obviously impounded on 1/17/2015. It's a mixed breed. It's a male. Dan Crowley Jr. claims that dog on January 21st, 2015, according to these documents here. So this fax that we're seeing here, this document was faxed from the pet hospital to the Apple Valley Police Department on January 21, 2015. You can see that on page 151. On page 152, you will see that on January 23, 2015, Tommy Booth is notified that the forensic scientist assigned to the nuclear DNA section assignment in this case will be Rebecca Diane. Page 153 is the handwritten report with a list of authorities involved. This lists everybody who was involved in this case. Page 154 through 157 is Kamel's messages with an unnamed person. The dates include Monday, November 24th at 9:57 a.m., where she met with somebody at a coffee house. Kamel's plans for after the holidays. Quote, "I'd also be interested in planning a more elaborate, fun get-together after the holidays." On page 155, she's corresponding with somebody on December 3rd, 12:39 p.m., and she responds on Friday, December 5th at 11:53 a.m. So you can read page 154 through 157, and you can see, and you can judge for yourself. Because we get down to page 156, and now we're in December of 2014. Page 158 shows what guns were taken from the house on January 18th, 2015. There are 9 in total. On page 159, you'll see that Brian Bone is trying to get access to David Crowley's Dropbox. He is requesting a preservation of the account and any account associated with this specific Gmail account, crawls04@gmail.com. Page 160 through 162, we're back to the BCA Forensic Science Service, filled out by the AVPD, Brian Bone. This is for the nuclear DNA test. Specifically, look at what it says under latent prints here. Elimination principles from all principles? No. Major case prints, fingers/palms for crimes against people? No. Is the evidence process? No. DNA cases, known DNA samples from all principles? Yes and no. Still on page 161. It clearly says yes and no. Both of those boxes are marked on page 161. Page 162, the elimination principles names David, Kamel, and Rania. All right, page 164 shows Joe Cooksley as the forensic scientist assigned to the crime scene team. Page 165 shows that Catherine Roach is the forensic specialist assigned to the nuclear DNA section. Page 166 through 318 shows David Crowley's Facebook account activity. Page 319 through 332 is David Crowley's conversation with Brendan J. Look at page 335 and 336 now, and you will see this post that was removed. You won't find this post anymore on David's social media. This was removed, a removed post, page 335 and 336. So the police were able to get a record of this. All right, page 337 shows Sean Wright with Luke Radowski. Again, you got to ask why. What is going on here? Well, obviously, to the police, page 337 relates to 335 and 336, or it also relates to 338. Check out 338. That's when Sean Wright starts asking for the admin rights. So I was just wondering, when I looked at page 341, I was like, why is this post here? And then I scrolled up to page 340, 339. Now, the thing is, if they already think David Crowley is guilty at this point, why are they doing all this? Why are they going through all this stuff? I don't know. Page 342 is the email exchange between David and Jason Allen. Now, Jason Allen forwards this email to Sean McKnight on January 20th, 2015. David sent this email on 12/17/2014. He was planning for the future. He was actively planning for his future. How does that equal suicide? How do they go from planning your future to committing a double murder suicide? Page 345 is a picture of David, Danny Mason, and others on Facebook. Page 346 through 349 is the AVPD Property and Evidence Report. Very important document here. Page 350 is the Property and Evidence Report, dated 1/22/2015 at 1:59 p.m. This is the bullet that rolled out of the carpet. It's also listed as item 026 on there. Page 352 is another Property and Evidence Report with the bodies in the bags. This is print dated 1/27. Page 353 is David's clothing list. Page 354 is the evidence receipt for David's clothing list. Page 356 to 358 is the same thing for Kamel, her evidence receipt. Page 362 is the property release form for the same bullet that was found on January 20th that rolled out of the carpet. Very interesting. The item number 53 was found on January 20th. Okay, page 363 to 367, forensic laboratory analysis requests for nuclear DNA comparisons for item 50, item 51, and item 52. David's known blood sample, Kamel's known blood sample, and Ranya's known blood sample. They also requested nuclear DNA comparisons for item 53. That was submitted on 1/23/2015 at 10:05. Page 368 to 372 is Brian Bones' application for a search warrant and supporting affidavit and search warrant. 373 to 375, Brian Bones / Sean McKnight receipt, inventory, and return. Now we're getting to the nitty-gritty. AV-1 through AV-55. You'll notice on page 373, it's dated 1/17/2015, but on page 374, it is dated 1/17/2014. Simple error, minor error. Here we have 23 through 44. Looking at page 375, going to AV-55. 367 is the receipt of filing search warrant. Contains a copy of the warrant. 378, AVPD Detective Michael Tietz to AT&T National Compliance Center for AT&T, sent on 1/22/2015. Page 379 shows AVPD's attempt to contact T-Mobile. Page 380 through 384 is a search warrant application for AT&T phone record 651-333-0072 between the dates of 9/1/14 and 1/21/2015, signed on 1/22. Page 385 to 389 is a search warrant for AT&T phone record 212-470-5794 between the dates of 1/1/2014 and 1/21/2015. Page 390 to 394 is the search warrant for the T-Mobile phone 254-616-0461 between the dates of 1/1/2014 and 1/21/2015. Page 395 is a search warrant for the AT&T phone record 612-999-4890 between the dates of 9/1/2014 and 1/21/2015. Page 396 to 399 is when Gummert learns in regards to Ranya's school that David and Kamel had multiple emergency contact numbers on file at the school, including the number 612-999-4890. Page 400 to 404 is Sean McKnight's search warrant for the computers and digital media storage, and the list of items are included. This evidence may show motive, pre-planning, intent, or a recording of the crime itself in video, still images, or audio form, and we know that's not true. 28 devices were found in total. This is the autopsy of David has not yet been started. If you look at page 401, just going to quickly go to a different document here to refer when the autopsies of David were done. Autopsy here says 11:50 a.m. So page 1 of David Crowley's autopsy says 11:50 a.m. But Sean McKnight's report clearly says the autopsy hasn't even been started yet. And it's signed and dated 13/30, 1/18/2015. Okay. Page 405 to 409 is Brian Bone's application for a search warrant and supporting affidavit. They are requesting financial records, Wells Fargo records. On page 407, there's indications of financial trouble. From what they say, Detective Bone thought money and debt can be a contributing factor to motive in cases of homicides. He doesn't specifically say this case on page 407, but he mentions that they might have financial trouble. There's indications. What are the indications of their financial trouble? Because people told them that? Page 410 through page 413, David Crowley's financial records warrant and application requested by Brian Bone on 2/2/2015 at 2:13 p.m. They are requesting AAA credit screening and financial records. Page 414 to 418, Kamel's financial records warrant and application, also requested by Brian Bone on 2/2/2015 at 2:13 p.m. Page 419 to 421 cover David Crowley's Dropbox search warrant and application. This is also requested on the same date, 2/2/2015, 2:13 p.m. by Brian Bone. Page 422 to 427 is the Equifax request from AVPD with the warrant attached. This is requested by Brian Bone on 2/4/2015 at 4:22 p.m. They are specifically requesting financial records for Kamel. Page 428 through 432 is pretty much the same thing, but for David Crowley, it's an Equifax warrant and application. Same date, 2/4/2015 at 4:22. They want David's financial records. So they have this stuff. And we see at the very end of this, again, there is very little proof of any financial trouble, from what I can see here. And that doesn't include David's pending deal for his Hollywood project. And it doesn't include the $14,000 check that was left on their front doorstep. And they're still saying that there's indications of financial trouble. With the $14,000 check found on the front doorstep, it's hard for me to believe there's indications of financial trouble. Why aren't the police seeing the same thing? Why aren't investigators seeing that same thing? Why did Mason Hendricks not want this to be made public? Did not want this in the police reports that were given to us? He told me that. Because this kills that story. This kills the whole theory that they had major money problems. Page 433 is the Apple Valley Police Department Incident Recall Report from Sidra. And this one is dated 10/18/2014. This is when Sidra goes to the Crowley house and is turned away. She wants to go see her sister. She goes there to pick up one of her dad's cars. She does not see her sister. She does not see her niece. She only sees David. From what she says, David won't let her in, won't let her see them. And she's worried. Who wouldn't be worried? You should be worried. This is the second call. This is Sidra's second call to 911. The first call you'll see on page 343. And that one happened same date, 10/18/2014. This call was at 19:08. They arrive at 19:30, and this is closed at 19:51. That's page 434. Take a look at that one. 2 calls within 2 hours. So she's in the lobby of the police office asking for assistance getting the cars back. The police can't help since it's a civil issue. All right, page 435 to 436. Back to the BCA ACISS Crime Scene Supplemental Report. This is 2015-28/8. The report date is 2/18/2015 from 0 to 0. This is item 57, a bullet found a month later. Police will try to tie this bullet to David's murder weapon. I don't think that they'll be very successful. The call was received at 2/18/2015 at 16:30. The time that they arrived is 17:30 and the time completed is 19:30. 2 hours. Exactly. 28 photographs were taken this third time that they've come into the house now. They recovered a spent bullet, Christopher Olson. On Wednesday, February 18th, 2015, Special Agent Lance Lehman is contacted by the BCA's Operations Center to respond to 1051 Ramsdale Drive. Lance Lehman is briefed by BCA Special Agent Chris Olson, and the purpose of this event was to document and recover a spent bullet from the attic. And the BCA crime scene team was on site as well, including Joe Cooksley, who was there on the first day, on January 17, 2015. He was there, and Beth Wolf. Special Agent Lehman took the 28 photos, item 8.1. This is all on page 437. Really good stuff here. The record original date is 2/19/2015 at 9:55 by Lance Lehman. Page 439 to page 442 are the crime scene drawings. Very interesting stuff here, especially when you think about the 3 different dates and you look at the dates on here. So there's no doubt they had to update this twice. Page 443, the Minnesota BCA ACISS lab result attachment. The report date is 2/3/2015 for nuclear DNA, and this is 2015-28/10. Page 444 is the Forensic Science Laboratory report on the examination of the physical evidence. For nuclear DNA, it lists items 1 through 53. That's it. That's what they're testing for nuclear DNA in this document at this point, up until this point. Page 446 are the results of the lab exam. This is the blood. Presence of blood is found on the pistol, item 1A, in 4 areas. It's 1A-1, which is the grip of the gun, 1A-2, which is the slide of the gun, 1A-3, which is the trigger of the gun, and 1A-4, which is the muzzle of the gun. They also find presence of blood on the magazine, item 1B, in 1 area called IB-1. They find blood on the knife, which is item 8, in 4 areas, 3 samples collected. 8-1, which is the blade, 8-2, which is the inside, 8-3, which is the handle. They found presence of blood on the pin, item 40, 40-1, on the grip of the pin. They found presence of blood on the notepad, item 41, 41-1, on the front cover, 41-2 on a page. They found, okay, now we're getting into bullet. I'm going to call this bullet 1, item 42, bullet 1. They found blood on the bullet, item 42-1. 42-1 is the actual blood on the bullet. Bullet number 2, item 43. They found blood on the bullet, item 43-1. We're still on page 446. And we're going to look at bullet number 3, item 44. Blood on the bullet, and the blood on the bullet is labeled as item 44-1. Here's where blood was not found. Blood was not found on 1B1, which is a cartridge. Blood was not found on 1B2, which is a cartridge. Blood was not found on 1C, which is a cartridge. Again, blood was not found on 45, which is a bullet. Page 447 shows the hair and fiber and when they were collected on. Not examined at this time were items 4 through 7, 10, item 13, item 16 through 22, item 25, item 26, item 28, item 29, and item 31 through 33. This is signed by the forensic scientist in charge, Rebecca Diane. Okay, page 448, Minnesota BCA ACISS lab result attachment, 2015-28/11. This is dated 3/11/2015. Lab number 2, crime scene team. Page 449 is a forensic science laboratory BCA result of the field examinations report 2, item 1 through 57. Brian Bone requests BCA crime scene team to go to the house to look at the hole in the ceiling and search for any possible related bullet. So Brian Bone calls the BCA Operations Center sends out their team on 2/18/2015 to recover item 57. Hours in the house from 1745 to 1945. Page 452 shows the observations of the scene. Page 453 shows the description of the bodies. This is a very important read. Okay, page 454 shows HCME entered the scene at midnight on 1/18/2015. The bodies are taken 90 minutes later. Fragments of bones and tufts on the hair were observed on the area rug in the living room. Page 454 is a list of items collected. Item 1, Springfield XD, XD546473 with blood on it. Cartridge cases, items 2, 3, 9, 30, 36, and 37. Cartridge item number 7. 3 bullets, 42, 43, and 44. Bullet fragment item 31. Book with blood on it. Item 4. Pages torn out of the book with blood. Item 5, 6, and 10. The knife, open, locked back knife. Item 8. Page 454 clearly shows that the knife was open. Blood swabs from the wall, A and B, items 11 and 12. Page 455, blood swabs from the east wall, item 29. Blood swabs from the south wall behind the Christmas tree, item 33. Blood swabs from lower front right corner of the recliner, item 34. Blood swabs from wood floor outside of area rug, items 13, 14, 15, 18, 19, 20, and 32. The magazine from item 1 had blood on it, ridge detail, loaded with less than 4 cartridges, also a cartridge in the chamber. Page 456, item 57 is mentioned. A projectile was traveling generally west to east as it entered the ceiling and exited the attic. From the island counter wall below the countertop, items 16 and 17. Blood swabs of underside the island countertop, item 28. Blood swabs of the laptop's A key, item 24. Blood swabs of the keyboard surface, item 23. Blood swabs from the island countertop next to the laptop, item 25. Blood swab of tissue box, item 26. Blood swabs of cell phone, item 35. The dishwasher was open, dish racks pulled out. Blood swab of the kitchen floor, item 21. Blood swab inside the dishwasher, item 22. Page 457, items 46 and items 47, the notepad and the note page, possible handwriting samples from Kamel. Page 457, item 48, checkbook from David, possible handwriting samples from David. Blood swab collected in hallway outside of the office, item 27. Blood swabbing of office desk, item 39. Blood swabbing of notepad, item 41. Possible bloody ridge detail and blood on previous page 2. Blood swabbing of pen, item 40. Open safe in the master bedroom. Loaded magazine with keys and miscellaneous items. There is a swabbing of push keys on the top of the safe, item 38. Page 458 is the house diagram. You have the basement wall bullet here. You have the hole in the south wall. Chemical testing failed to detect the presence of lead. Bullet item 45 was retrieved from inside of the wall near the hole in the basement. This is all the basement wall bullet. The bullet hole in the living room was underneath the area rug. Holes were observed in both the area rug and the wood floor underneath that rug. Chemical testing of hole in wood floor failed to detect lead. Page 459, additional items submitted. Item 49 by Special Agent Chris Olson. Item 50 through 53 by Whitney Dorn. Item 54 through 56 by Special Agent Beth Ellers. Nuclear DNA tests were done on items 1 through 45, items 50 through 53, and item 57. Latent prints were done on item 1, item 40, item 41, item 49, and item 54. Firearms, item 1 through 3, item 9, item 30, item 36, item 37, item 42 through 45, item 53, and item 57. Question documents, item 41. No analysis at this time was done on items 46, 48, 55, and 56. This is dated 3/11/2015. Page 460, the Minnesota BCA ACISS Lab Results Attachment, 2015-28/12. The report date is 3/16/2015 for nuclear DNA. Page 461 is about Rania Crowley's known blood sample, which is item 52, single source composite DNA profile. Page 464 shows the nuclear DNA tests were done on item 1, the gun, which is 1A and 1B, item 8, the knife, blood swabs for items 11, 14, 23, 27, and 35. Nuclear DNA tests were also done on item 38, the push keys from the gun safe, item 41 from the notepad, item 42, 43, and 44, which are all bullets, item 45, which is the bullet in the basement wall. This is all nuclear DNA tests. These nuclear DNA tests were also done on item 50, which is a blood sample of David Crowley, item 51, a blood sample of Kamel Crowley, and item 52, a blood sample of Rania Crowley, page 465. These tests were also done on item 53, the bullet that rolled out of the rug, and item 57, the bullet that police found in the attic. No blood on that bullet. Sampled, collected, labeled as 57-1. Still on page 465, here are the DNA results. Item 1A-3 is a mix of 2 or more people with major male DNA profile that matches David. Major profile does not match Kamel or Rania. Rania cannot be excluded from being a possible contributor. Kamel is excluded. Item 1B is a mix of 2 or more people. Major male DNA profile matches David. Major profile does not match Kamel or Rania. Kamel and Rania cannot be excluded as contributors. Estimates 99.95 to 99.97 of the general population can be excluded. Page 466 is item 8-1, which has a mix of 2 or more people. David, Kamel, and Rania cannot be excluded from being contributors. 99.95 to 99.98% of the estimated general population can be excluded. Items 11 and items 44-1. Single source female DNA profile matching Kamel. David and Rania are excluded. Item 14, 23, 27, 42-1, and 43-1. Female DNA profile matching Kamel. David and Rania are excluded. Item 35 has a mix of 2 or more people. Kamel and Rania can't be excluded. David is excluded along with 99.9998% of the general population. Page 466, item 38, which shows a mix of 2 or more people. Major DNA profile matches Kamel. Major DNA profile does not match David or Rania. However, David and Rania cannot be excluded from being possible contributors to the mixture. Page 467. Item 41-2 has a mix of 2 or more people. Major DNA profile matches Kamel. Major DNA profile does not match David or Rania. David and Rania are excluded. Item 45-1 shows no DNA profile obtained. Item 53-1 shows a mix of 2 or more people. Major DNA profile matches Rania. Major DNA profile does not match David or Kamel. David and Kamel are excluded. This is very important right here because item 53-1 is the bullet that rolled out of the carpet on January 20th. What you're reading here shows they did not have the bullet that they will say killed Rania until 4 days after the bodies were taken out of the house. That's ridiculous. 4 days after, January 17th goes by. Bodies are taken out January 18th. January 19th goes by. January 20th, when there's cleaners in the Crowley house, a bullet rolls out of a carpet, lands on the hardwood floor, cops are called in to collect this bullet, this document on page 467 shows this is the bullet that killed Rania, most likely. That's what it's telling me. They missed this bullet too. The only bullets they found, if their logic is correct, the only bullets they found on January 17th were related to Kamel. Page 467 to 468 covers item 57. There is a male DNA profile that matches David Crowley. Kamel and Rania are excluded. Insignificant genetic information led to no statement on minor types. Page 469 is the autopsy reports. Minnesota BCA ACISS attachment 2015-28/14. The report date is 4/14/2015. This is the final autopsy reports. Page 470 shows that Chris Olson receives the final autopsy reports. Final autopsy claims David died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Page 471, the Minnesota BCA ACISS lab result attachment 2015-28/15 with a report date of 5/24/2015. Lab 5-FA. Page 472 covers the forensic science laboratory tests on firearms. Lab 5, there's an item list. This is dated 5/22/2015. Page 473 shows the results of the laboratory examination. On item 1, the gun fired item 2, fired item 3, item 9, item 30, item 36, and item 37, for a total of 6 .40 cal Smith & Wesson cartridge cases. Now, item 1 also fired item 42, item 43, item 44, item 45, item 53, and item 57, for a total of 6 .40 caliber Smith & Wesson bullets. They find matching features between item 57 and item 31. So item 1 fired item 31. Item 7 was not examined. It's a cartridge. So they take the matching features between item 57 and item 31 to show that item 1 fired item 31. Examinations of item 42, 43, 44, 45, 53, and 57 showed them to be consistent with bullets from the Winchester PXD1 brand cartridges. You know, when I first read this, I thought it was the other way around. I thought they were using item 31 to help prove item 57 was fired by David's gun. Reading this now, I'm looking at it differently, and now I'm thinking they're trying to say what they found with item 57 helps them prove something about item 31. They don't even know that David's gun fired item 57, and they're going to use item 57 to help prove that David fired item 31. Lisa Kinsella is the forensic scientist here. Page 474 is the Minnesota BCA ACISS lab result attachment 2015-28/16. The report date is 7/2/2015. Lab 6. This includes a list of question documents. Includes 41A-1 to 41A-59. Lots of items to cover here. Okay, page 476. We're talking about blood. Item 41A-20A. 2 ESDA lifts taken of impressions found on the front side of page 20 of item 41, the spiral notepad. Item 41A-21A. 2 SDA lifts taken of impressions found on the front side of page 21 of item 41. So the comparisons will not be done at this time. If you're looking on page 477, comparisons of item 41A-30 and question writings and photographs saved, item 55, will not be conducted at this time. Still in the handwriting now with page 478 with alternate light source examining results. Exams of item 41, front, back, 59 pages inside, failed to reveal any latent writing material. Items 41A-1 through 41A-59. So they go all through these 59 pages. 41 is the notepad. 41A is the paper on the notepad, and 41A-1 through 59 are the pages. The indented impression examination results are also listed here. These impressions were done on 41A-20A and 41A-21A. Limitations. Additional writing impressions were developed that could not be interpreted. Page 480 is the BCA ACISS lab result attachment 2015-28/17, dated 9/10/2015, September 10th, 2015, done by Lab 7. Page 482 shows the latent prints, dated 7/31/2015. List of items submitted are all from page 482 to 484. This includes the gun, the magazine, the pen, the notepad, 59 pages. Item 49 is a known fingerprint card of David Crowley. Item 54 is a CD with images of 25 NEF images. Item 58 is a disc with images of latent prints from 1A, 1B, 41A, and 54. Latent prints. Item 1A, latent palm print, which is labeled as LP1A-1. Item 1B, latent fingerprint, which is labeled LP1B-2. Item 54, a latent palm print, labeled LP54-1. File names BCA499, NEF through BCA5001, NEF. A limited examination of latent prints is apparent blood from item 41, 41A, 41A1 through 41A59, all submitted as item 41. So on the notepad, they find 2 latent prints that are suitable for comparison. The latent prints, item 41A-30, latent print impression, could be from a finger or a palm. Item 41A-31, latent fingerprint, LP41A-31-1. This is blood. Now don't forget, they searched in the Muffin database and no suitable candidate was generated for these latent prints. Latent print results, page 485. LP1B-2 is a fingerprint inconclusive to Crowley due to the limited quality and quantity of information in the latent print. LP41A-30-1 is a palm or fingerprint inconclusive to Crowley for the same reason, because there's a limited quality and quantity of information in the latent print. It's not a good enough latent print. LP41A-31-1 is a fingerprint of David's left middle finger on the note page. 2 palm prints, LP1A-1 and LP54-1, could not be compared due to no known palm print of David, according to page 485. This is dated 7/31/2015, well after they had contacted the FBI and the military. So they have palm prints, but they can't match them to David. They have a fingerprint, 2 fingerprints. Can't match them to David. Yet they're still going to go and claim David is guilty. Contact information is left if additional examinations are necessary. I believe they are, so hopefully we can get to that. Contact the BCA latent print section. This is written by forensic scientist Jennifer Kostrowski. They reviewed 5 latent print results, 3 fingerprints, 2 palm prints. Okay, the 3 fingerprints, LP1B-2, inconclusive to David Crowley. LP14A-31-1, inconclusive to David Crowley, which is the notepad. LP1A-30-1 is inconclusive to David Crowley, and this is the note page, number 30. LP41A-31-1 has David's left middle finger. This is the only fingerprint that they have, is of David Crowley's left middle finger, found on the note page, page 31 of the notepad. That's it. It's all they can conclusively say. That's what they have. A left middle finger for all of us, pretty much. Okay, palm prints. LP1A-1, no palm print comparison. LP54-1, no palm print comparison. They have no palm print comparison for David Crowley. The fingerprints don't match except for one. Don't match the gun, don't match anything else. Until we meet again, the gray stage continues. Here is the Apple Valley Police Department Property and Evidence Report, print date 1/20/2015 at 10:43 a.m. Item number 1 is the mail recovered from the mailbox for 1051 Ramsdale Drive, collected by Brian Bone. Item number 2 is a toy wrapped in black and white gift wrap labeled From Uncle Danny, collected by Brian Bone, AV2. Item number 3 is a brown paper bag containing a bill, a black flashlight, VFW mailing, a card with check for $14,000 from Daniel Crowley, and a gift from Sue and Al containing a coloring book, collected by Brian Bone. In the notes section of item 3, which is also AV-3, this says, contains check, be sure to properly destroy. This was found on the front step of the residence. Item number 4 is a world map wrapped in black and white gift wrap with label From Grandpa, collected by Brian Bone. This is AV-4, found on the front steps of the residence. Item number 5 is a bundle of assorted shooting targets, also collected by Brian Bone. This is AV-5, found on the front step of the residence. Item number 6 is This Week newspaper dated 12/26/2014, found by Tara Becker. This is AV-10, and it's found in the kitchen trash can. Item number 7 is a document with the name Kamel on it, found by Tara Becker. This is known as AV-11, and it's found in the kitchen. Item number 8 is a report card for Rania Crowley, dated fall of 2014, also found by Tara Becker. This is AV-12. This document is found in a Cypress School binder on the kitchen counter. Item number 9 is a document with a list of contributions. This is also AV-36. This is found in the office printer. Item number 10 is a 2010 daycare document from JC Child Care, a 401k statement in the name of Kamel Crowley, a healthcare statement with Park Nicolette Clinic stamp on it, an immunization record for Rania Crowley. Item number 11 is the firearms document, also known as AV-39. Item number 12 is a blue folder with the medical documents for Kamel Crowley. So they had her medical documents or some type of medical documents. This is also AV-40, found in the office file cabinet. Item number 13 is a birth certificate and medical and dental records for David Crowley. This is found in the office file cabinet as well, and it's AV-41. Item number 14 is a black rectangular gun safe with keypad on top, collected by Brian Bone. Item number 15 is a Springfield Armory handgun magazine containing 11 rounds of 40 cal Smith & Wesson ammunition, collected by Brian Bone. AV-44. This is found in the gun safe of the northeast bedroom. Item number 16 is a box of Winchester brand 40 cal Smith & Wesson ammunition, collected by Brian Bone. This is collected in the trunk of the vehicle in the garage. This is also AV-46. Item number 17 is a black plastic Springfield Armory gun case containing manuals, also collected by Brian Bone. This is AV-47. It is a gun case found in the trunk of the vehicle in the garage. Item number 18 is a Marlin Model 60 rifle collected by Michael Tietz. This is also AV-48. It is a weapon in the southeast downstairs bedroom. Item number 19 is a gun case containing a HK USP 40 handgun found by Michael Tietz. And this is also found in the southeast downstairs bedroom. This is AV-49. Item number 20 is a Remington Model 700 rifle with scope and DBM collected by Michael Tietz. This is also AV-50, and this is found in the southeast downstairs bedroom. Item number 21 is a Remington Model 700 rifle with HFP collected by Michael Tietz. This is AV-51 in a black Pelican case with item AV-50, found together with AV-50. And this was found in the southeast downstairs bedroom as well. Item number 22 is a black plastic gun case containing DPMS AR-15 with scope, handguard, and black flashlight. This is AV-52, and it's also found in the southeast downstairs bedroom. And lastly, we have item number 26, which is a bullet found at the residence after a call from the cleaning crew. And this is ammo found on the scene at 1/20/2015, print date 1/22/2015. This is the bullet that rolled out of the carpet when the cleaners were there on January 20th, 3 days after the bodies were found. This bullet will eventually be tied to Rania, meaning they did not find the bullet that they're going to say most likely killed Rania till 3 days later. Item number 27 is one bag identified as 15-0366 David Crowley, contains clothing from victim, list of bag inventory scanned into case file. And this was given to them by the Hennepin Medical Examiner's Office. Item number 28 is one bag identified as 15-0367 Camille Crowley, contains clothing from victim, list of bag inventory scanned into case file. This is the clothing for Camille. Item 30 is photos of David Crowley. It's put on a CD disc, and it's given to Brian Bone by the Medical Examiner's Office. Item 31 is photos of Camille. And item 32 are photos of Rania. Item 33 is the crime scene video on a CD. This was given to Brian Bone by the BCA. Item 34 are the crime scene photos from the BCA on a CD. And again, this is given to Brian Bone by the BCA. Item number 35 is a CD with all the Wells Fargo records received via email from a warrant. This is given to Brian Bone by Wells Fargo. Item number 36 is a CD with all AT&T records received via email from a warrant. Item number 37 is documents, credit reports for Camille and David Crowley received from Equifax. Okay, and it looks like all of the firearms were released to Brian Bone on 4/1/2015. All the firearms except for the murder weapon, of course. And then on 4/6/2015, all of these firearms were picked up by Dan Crowley. I'm not sure if it's Dan Crowley Sr. or Jr., but you will be able to tell by the phone number. Item number 39 are the bone fragments located near David Crowley's body by the medical examiner. Item number 40 are bone fragments located near Camille Crowley's body. Item number 41 is a USB flash drive from Dropbox.com with files from David Crowley with his password here. Item number 42 are records from AT&T for the phone records. Okay, and then in these documents it skips down to number 50. Item number 50 is a computer chip. Item number 51 is number 6 on AV warrant, ECU number 14, listed as electronics. Item number 52 is also electronics, and it is number 7 on AV search warrant. Let's see what number 7 is. It's also electronics. Number 7 is an iPhone, okay, with the brown plastic case with the skull, found in the kitchen by Tara Becker. Item number 53 is number 9 on the AV search warrant. Okay, number 54 is number 13 on the AV search warrant, which is an iMac computer. It's like it's found in the kitchen. Item number 55 is number 26 on the AV search warrant. Let's look at number 26. Miscellaneous power cords. Okay. Item number 56 is number 35 on the AV search warrant. It's also electronics. Let's look at what number 35 on the AV search warrant. It is a Pelican case with 6 hard drives. Item number 57 is number 20 on the AV search warrant. Let's take a look at what number 20 is on the AV search warrant. And that is a password list. Okay, password list. There we go. Item number 58 is number 21 on the AV search list, which is another password list. 2 password lists here. Item number 59 is number 22 on the AV search warrant, which is a hard drive, rugged LaCie, L-A-C-I-E, orange color. Oh, one of those big ones. Okay. Item number 60 is number 24 on the AV search warrant. I don't know why they can't just list this for us, but whatever. Let's go ahead and find number 24 is a black jump drive. So item number 60 is a black jump drive. Item number 61, which is number 25 on the AV search warrant, is a card reader with scan disk, 64-bit. Okay, number 62 is number 27. Number 27 is a Lexar card reader with memory card. Item number 63 is number 28 on the AV search warrant. And 28 is a hard drive with iron enema on it. Item number 64 is number 30 in the AV search warrant. It's also electronics. Let's take a look at what number 30 is. It's a Seagate Anchor 008. Item number 65 is number 32 on the AV search warrant. And 32 is another hard drive, a Maxon. Item number 66 is number 33 on the AV search warrant. AV33 on the search warrant is a blue USB thumb drive. There you go. Item number 67 is number 34 on the AV search warrant, and number 34 is a Skillcraft USB thumb drive. Item number 68 is number 37 on the AV search warrant. It's also electronics. They have 37 listed as a hard drive. And this name is interesting. Go ahead and look that name up. Tell me what you find. Item number 69 is number 42 on the AV search warrant. And 42 is a phone with a black case. Item number 70 is number 45 on the AV search warrant, and 45, let's take a look at what that is. 45 is a tablet with a pink case. Item number 71 is number 23 on the AV search warrant. Looks like hard drive for family photos. Number 23, I'm going to go back just to check that. A Toshiba hard drive family pictures. Okay, number 72. Item number 72 is number 8 on the AV search warrant. And this has Black Mac laptop. It's a computer. And item number 73 is the ECU record. It is a CD disc. Okay, so that was 57 pages of Apple Valley Police Department property and evidence reports covering all of the items. You'll notice there were some items missing. Specifically items 23, 24, 25, 38, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, and 49. So I'm going to try to find out what these other items are that I was unable to find here. I guess there will be a part 2 once I find out what those other items are. Okay, everyone, thanks for staying. Thanks for listening. The gray stage continues. We will get to the bottom of this. Truth is on our side. Never give up. All right, we're now going back to page 14, and we're going to go back to Officer Adam Keeler, who was the 4th officer on scene. Page 14. All right, Keeler, quote, opened the sliding glass door, and the dog was given some treats inside the residence. The dog continued to bark, and it took approximately 5 minutes for it to come outside. Once it came outside, CSO Booth used his catch pole to secure the dog and put it in his truck. Still page 14. So Keller and Sergeant Dahlstrom then entered the house, and they went through the sliding back door. After announcing their presence, the two apparently cleared the whole house. Okay, Keeler, and this has also been another thing. The dead bodies were in the living room. They saw the blood writing. Keeler also reported that there were piles of dog feces all over the floor on both levels of the residence. I know this has been something that we've been kind of going back and forth on. Was there a lot of dog poop? Doesn't look like there's a lot of dog poop in the photos. There's not that much dog poop. I think in that back room, once Dan Hannon got the 662 photos that showed that little back room next to the rear slider, I think that's where a lot of the dog feces was. And I think downstairs they also had one area in the basement where where there was a lot of dog feces there too. So I think it was in separate piles and separate areas. The big thing to know is, was it 3 weeks worth of dog feces in that house? You could look at the photos that we got there's still hundreds of photos that are missing. But I do think I've seen feces obviously in at least one or two parts of the basement. You see it a lot in that back room there next to the fireplace. You do see some in the living room area too. There's fresh and there's old feces, old dog feces. There's some that is very, very light tan, and then there's some that looks fresh, looks really fresh. So the question is, would that amount to a dog being in the house by itself, eating on the bodies and nothing else for 3 weeks? So if somebody would want to go through all of the different photos, collect all of the different photos that we have, because what I've been looking at is there is a lot of dog feces there. I do think there is a lot of dog feces. I don't have a dog though, so to me, it wouldn't take much for me to think that it's that much. But for the dog owners out there, if you could help us look at these photos, maybe we can compile one list, one video playlist or one photo playlist that just shows all of the photos that we have where there is dog feces there, and we can kind of go by that. Maybe that will help us understand the whole timeline, and was this dog really in there for 3 weeks? Were these people really in there for 3 weeks dead? I think it'll really help, because we've seen a picture of the dog taken soon after all of this happened, after the bodies were found on January 17th. We did see a picture of that dog, and looks pretty healthy to me. Okay, so Keeler and Dahlstrom cleared the whole house. They cleared the upper level, cleared the garage, then cleared the basement. Once the house was cleared, the officers left the residence and they secured the scene until detectives arrived. That's it. That's what they're saying. They didn't touch anything, didn't move anything. At least that's kind of what I'm getting here on page 15. So check that one out. Okay, then we're going to page 17 in my notes. Remember, these are just my notes from the 94 pages. Okay, next we're going to go to page 17, and on page 17 we're going to see Jim Gummert is informed by Dahlstrom at 2 p.m. So the bodies are found at 1, and Gummert is informed at 2, and he arrives at the police station to work with other detectives at 3 p.m. And I have here another note that the BCA arrived after Jim Gummert. Okay, Gummert, quote, assisted detectives McKnight, Tietz, and members of the Dakota County Electronic Crimes Unit. Once the BCA processing team had completed a portion of their work processing the scene, I, along with the remaining detectives, entered the home to assist in the processing. Page 17. Okay, they note the little amount of marijuana on the bedroom dresser, still on page 17. Gummert found a plastic tote in the trunk of one of the cars that contained gun ammunition, medical supplies, water, and an empty handgun case. It appeared to me as if the case was going to be used for a survival kit. Okay, then on page 20, it mentions the neighbors who are living behind the Crowley residence. This male and this female, there's a male and there's a female that live behind the Crowleys. One is 5'10", 175 pounds, 45 years old, white, brown hair with blue eyes. Then there is a female, she's 5'3", 137 pounds, white, brown hair, hazel eyes. And they told two detectives, Detective Tietz and Detective McKnight, that the Crowley home, quote, had been dark since around Christmas, that they hadn't seen the occupants in a long time. The female said her room was on the back of the house and that lights on the back of the neighbor's house would shine into her room if they were on. The female also hadn't seen anyone at the house since the weekend before Christmas school break, which started 12/19. Here they put 2015, but it's 2014. And that would be page 21. They never heard the couple fight. They live right behind them, never heard them fight. They said Kamel was actually interested in having this female babysit Rania, but the female thought David didn't want her to babysit for whatever reason. Detective Bone and Tommy Booth, and that's still page 21. Now moving on to page 22, Detective Bone and Tommy Booth filed for the search warrant. That's on page 22. And they met with other detectives at the police station. Page 22 also mentions the BCA Special Agents Chris Olson, Gary Swanson, and Michael Phil. Then the BCA crime scene team, Joe Cooksley and Beth Wolf. And Detective Booth states he entered the home with Detective Bone, S.A. Olson, Special Agent Olson, BCA CS Joe Cooksley, BCA CS Beth Wolf. That's still on page 22. Cooksley led this group so the evidence wouldn't be disturbed. So he's leading this group. This is the second time. So the first time is just the police coming in to clear the whole scene, to clear the whole house. Second time is the detectives and the BCA special agents. And they're filming all of this, and they're taking photos of everything. So after their initial walkthrough, Detective Booth and Bone spoke to Brent and Caitlin Millay, who lived at 1048 Ramsdale Drive across the street from the Crowleys, page 23. Brent and Caitlin didn't socialize with the Crowleys, according to what they told AVPD, and Brent saw them last on Christmas Eve. He was going to close the blinds on the front of the residence when he looked out of the window and saw David standing in the front window of David's residence. He said they looked at each other, and then Brent closed his shade while David had turned and walked away. That's page 23. Now, the exact time of the above is not sure, but he says between 6 p.m. and 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve 2014 is the last time that Brent saw David Crowley. Sometime between then. Still page 23. It also says that he did not notice that the Christmas presents were on the front step until today, which would be 1/17/2015, still page 23. So Brent did not even see these presents, or Brett, whatever his name is, he did not even see the presents on the Crowley front residence until 1/17/2015. All right, so then on page 23, it's also mentioned that the medical examiner investigator Greg Spandel and the medical examiner Dr. Jessica Lilinski removed the bodies and collected the bodies and the body parts. Page 23 still. One other detective, Detective Klokonis, and Deputy Olson and Deputy Jacobson helped collect the evidence. That's on page 24. These other detectives,